I believe that we should join forces too, Jeremy added. Count me in for the alliance. Sure, Olivia gestured her agreement. And me, count me in. Bella Bridges suddenly burst into the room, exclaiming, I overheard you guys talking about forming an alliance, and me too. Bella, what are you doing here? Steve waved his hand dismissively. You're not familiar with these matters, so it's best if you don't get involved. Steve, don't underestimate me, Bella retorted with a furrowed brow. Didn't you guys just mention forming an alliance? I'm one of the 7 families. What's wrong with me joining? Adding you would be redundant. Steve shook his head. Liv, don't blame me for not warning you. Bella is a handful, especially with the talkative butler she has trailing her. Aiden is an exceptional butler. Bella corrected him. He excels in talking nonsense, that's for sure, Steve said with an embarrassed smile. Would you stop? Bella pouted and scowled. She was well aware that Steve's words held little weight. She approached Olivia and held her hand. Include me as well. I've been thinking this whole meeting the last 3 days have felt very off. So if people are going to form a new alliance based on transparency and decency, I want to be a part of it. Initially, she came to find Steve and unexpectedly stumbled upon his discussion about an alliance when she got to his door. Her gut told her that this must be a significant matter. Usually, she was closely monitored and treated like a child. At 16 years old, she was on the cusp of adulthood. So now, she wanted to do something noteworthy to gain her family's approval. Well, this still needs careful consideration. Olivia struggled to resist Bella's eager gaze. Although Bella was brimming with enthusiasm, she did seem very ill-suited for this kind of endeavor. Afraid that I won't be of any help? Let me tell you, I'm skilled in many areas. Come with me and I'll walk you through them one by one, Bella insisted, as she pulled Olivia out of Suite 1703. She believed that Olivia would accept her offer once she realized she could contribute. Bella had a wealth of knowledge. No, I mean that... Unable to withstand Bella's earnest enthusiasm, Olivia found herself being dragged away. Watching Olivia being led away by Bella, Steve turned to Jeremy and questioned, Why did you reveal Kong's plan to Liv? I didn't expect you to be so fond of her. Jeremy responded succinctly with 4 words. When lips die, teeth turn cold. What the hell does that mean? Steve asked. If one important thing falls, everything that has interdependent on that thing suffers. With that, he exited the suite and returned to his own room. Jeremy knew that the Kongs were asking the Jarabaldis to help fight the Park family. Next time, though, it might be the Jarabaldis that the Kongs conspired to turn against. Jeremy's eyes harbored a deep resolve. If that were the case, he preferred taking the initiative to strike first. The 7 families had likely needed a reshuffling of the deck for quite some time. In his room, Steve pursed his lips and murmured, So that's how it is. While he may not have cared about the fate of the 7 families, he relished the chaos and tumultuousness. Ultimately, everyone would find themselves embroiled in confusion and conflict. Given the circumstances, he needed to involve the Shook family as well. It would be most satisfying if the Shook family faced bankruptcy, he thought mischievously. The situation would only become more intriguing if everyone participated together alongside the Parks. Unlike his usual demeanor, Steve now wore a sinister smile on his face. His eyes brimmed with unending hatred and coldness, as if everything he had displayed previously was merely a facade. Elsewhere, Bella pulled Olivia into her room, Suite 1706, and proceeded to play the piano for a full 7 minutes. Olivia watched on, confused. How was it? Bella asked expectantly after concluding the last segment of her performance. How did you like it? That was from my most renowned piece, Moonlight Sonata. It sounded wonderful. In her previous life, Olivia had also studied the piano for a few years to blend in with the upper class. She could recognize Bella's advanced musical skills. So, what do you think? Are you considering recruiting me to be a part of your alliance yet? Bella asked hopefully. Olivia struggled to see the connection between the 2 topics and found herself at a loss. Just then, Bella's butler, Aiden, returned. He nodded politely at Olivia before addressing Bella. Miss, Did you just play the Moonlight Sonata? He had happened to catch the last part of the performance. Yes. Bella immediately became more composed. Yes, I did. Could you play it again? The tempo seemed slightly unstable. The butler suggested. Of course. Bella agreed, casting a helpless glance at Olivia. She had taken advantage of Aiden's absence to go to Steve's room. Now that he was back, though, she had to return to practicing music. I'll take my leave then, as I can see you're both busy. Olivia saw her opportunity to leave and seized it as she stood up. Take care, Miss Johnson. Aiden nodded in farewell. Olivia made her exit, and while Bella didn't want her to leave, she could only offer a slight pout and a graceful goodbye. We'll meet again next time. Have a good day. You too, Olivia nodded. As she turned to leave, she heard the melodious sound of the piano from behind her. Stepping away from the music, she walked out of the room and closed the door. Strolling down the corridor, the afternoon sunlight filtered through the windows, casting its glow on her. An occasional breeze tousled her hair. Back in her room, Olivia retrieved the pistol and gun cover that Duke Lee had given her. This marked her first interaction with a firearm. The pistol was small, its exterior shimmering in a brilliant silver, and there was a rose design on the side. The more she handled it, the more Olivia realized she liked this handgun. It resonated with her on a deeper level. Before long, Duke Lee, who had seen Jet off from the city, returned and knocked on her door. Have you familiarized yourself with the gun I provided? Yes, Olivia nodded, her gaze keenly focused on Duke Lee. Today, you must learn how to use this gun, Duke Lee asserted with a grave expression. She read his thoughts and saw that his journey to the airport to drop off Jed had been perilous. They had switched vehicles midway to avoid someone who was trailing them when they reached the outskirts of the city, but Duke didn't mention this. I understand, Olivia replied, her voice resolute. This pistol is a compact automatic handgun designed specifically for women. It's lightweight, easy to carry, and suitable for ladies, Duke Lee explained. He removed all the bullets from the gun, disassembled the entire firearm, and began reassembling it step by step. You don't need to memorize every single part. I'll tell you only what's necessary for now. You can learn the rest later. The urgency of the situation left little time for extensive instruction. All right, Olivia nodded, paying close attention. This is the magazine. It holds 7 rounds. The gun barrel can chamber 1 round. Altogether, you have 8 rounds. I've prepared an additional 7 rounds for you. Duke Lee noted. They're already in the second layer of the gun cover. The process of loading the bullets is quite simple. You'll see once you do it. After a demonstration, he unloaded the bullets and reloaded the magazine. Got it, Olivia responded, observing Duke Lee's hand movements. This is the grip, the magazine, the front sight, the trigger, the hammer, the slide release, the safety, the barrel, the target. Duke Lee pointed out the parts. Rack the slide to chamber a round, disengage the safety, aim, and pull the trigger. Understood. Olivia listened intently. Duke Lee pulled the trigger. I've removed the bullet. Try it. Okay. Olivia took the gun and followed his instructions. With a click, Olivia pulled the trigger, and Duke Lee nodded in approval. Good. He took back the gun. Now I'll teach you how to aim. When you shoot, considering air resistance and gravity, the bullet's trajectory forms a parabola. Pausing, Duke Lee pointed out in front of them. Now, this pistol has an effective range of about 165 feet. The bullet isn't particularly heavy. My expectation for you is that you can hit a target. Okay, Olivia said hesitantly. She was nervous she might let him down. When you aim, line up the target at 3 o'clock on the sight. At this point, Duke Lee took out a practice pistol and a box of rubber bullets from his bag. Practice with this. He stood up and affixed a special target paper to the wall. Load the magazine, chamber a round, and aim. All right. Olivia followed the instructions, aligning the sight with the target. After she pulled the trigger, she felt a slight recoil that numbed her hand. This was a practice handgun with reduced power. She couldn't fathom the impact of a real firearm. Not bad. Don't grip the gun too tightly. Stay relaxed. Dukley nodded. Now practice diligently so you feel comfortable with it. Okay, Olivia agreed. Though it was motivating to acquire a new skill, she secretly hoped not to have to use it too soon. After practicing for some time, it was almost 11 o'clock. Olivia felt her arms aching and going numb, particularly her palm and thumb. All right, I think that's enough for the night. Make sure you rest well tonight, okay? Tomorrow might be a long day, Dukley said, stowing the practice handgun that Olivia had been using and tidying up the training area he had set up. I just loaded the bullets for you, and remember, never point it at anyone under any circumstances, he reminded. Got it, Olivia affirmed. You can secure the gun to your right thigh using this holster. Even if you wear a skirt tomorrow, it won't be noticeable, Dukley advised, showing Olivia a holster. Get a good night's sleep. Good night. Thank you for today, Olivia expressed her gratitude. You're welcome. If your hands are uncomfortable, use cold water to alleviate the discomfort, Dukley advised further. After ensuring Jed's safety earlier, Duke knew tomorrow they would find themselves in a precarious situation. He had the responsibility of escorting Olivia, who had no martial arts skills, so he furrowed his brow slightly. He needed to strategize now. After Dukley departed, Olivia toyed with the pistol briefly before setting it aside. She entered her bathroom for a shower, using cold water to soothe her sore hands. Her palms were red and slightly swollen, the tendons in her thumb and forefinger throbbing painfully. Olivia let out a sigh, hoping she'd never have to use the firearm in her lifetime. Once she changed into her pajamas, Olivia was prepping to sleep when she heard a knock on the door. Who is it? It's me. Olivia sighed and rose from the bed again to answer the door. Chris, you visit every night, aren't you tired? Today, however, she noticed that Chris didn't barge in as usual. Instead, he knocked before entering. What time are you leaving tomorrow? Chris asked as he entered. We're leaving at 10 in the morning. My flight departs at 1:30 in the afternoon, Olivia replied. Duke suggested we leave early. Duke? Chris's brows furrowed slightly, as in Dukley. You should keep your distance from him. Chris scanned Olivia's room, coming to rest on the gun cover on the bedside table. He approached, took the gun from the cover and examined it. Whoa, a Walter PPK? You recognize it? Olivia looked at Chris. Sven is a movie buff. The Walther PPK is James Bond's signature gun, Chris noted, studying the pistol in his hand. It's even an upgraded version. Do you know how to use this? I've picked up a little. Olivia shrugged. A little? Chris frowned. Human lives were precious, and handling such a dangerous tool with just a little knowledge was concerning. Just a little? What if something happens? I practice under Duke's guidance tonight, Olivia replied honestly. Chris gazed at Olivia for a moment, then sighed. Tomorrow, we'll follow behind your car and wait at the intersection you'll pass. We'll ensure your safety all the way to the airport, so please don't resort to using this gun. Okay, Olivia nodded. She could tell from reading Duke's mind that she may in fact be in legitimate danger, so she didn't mind having Chris follow her. He had proven that he had her back in the past, and he'd even saved her life once, so she trusted him. Besides, if his presence meant she didn't have to use the gun, she was willing to have him with her. It's a deal, she smiled. She took the gun from Chris's hand and placed it back into the gun cover. She really did have no intention of using it. Elsewhere, in a bustling room in Philadelphia, Pete Pell surveyed two middle-aged men who lay lifeless before him. Sir, these two were the drivers that Jed arranged for Olivia's transportation tomorrow? Pete's assistant told him. Send our people to replace them, Pete commanded with a snap of his fingers, and ensure that our replacements look similar in appearance to these two, so no one notices. Yes, sir, his assistant nodded. Right away. In the early morning of May 4th, Duke Lee had organized the convoy and meticulously planned the entire journey. Following breakfast, Olivia bid farewell to Jeremy and Steve and said, See you in New York. See you soon, Steve replied with a wave of his hand. I still don't understand. We're all from New York, yet we didn't all take the same flight? My dad's secretary arranged it. Even I find it annoying, though. Olivia chuckled. Anyway, I gotta go, but I'll see you guys back at school. Take care on the road, Jeremy advised, nodding. Olivia waved and proceeded to enter the idling car. Duke, let's get going. Of course, Duke Lee said. Steve and Jeremy waved at Olivia from the roadside as Olivia's black car peeled away from the curb. Just as the car was about to vanish from their view, a BMW SUV pulled up in front of them. The door swung open and Jeremy's driver, Albert, seated in the driver's seat, spoke, Sir, I hope I'm not late. Upon receiving Jeremy's instruction, he promptly booked the earliest flight he could to Philadelphia, hoping to arrive on time. No, you're right on schedule, Jeremy replied as he entered the car. Come on, let's go to the airport, he told Steve. Huh? Jeremy, what do you mean? Steve asked. Their flight home wasn't scheduled until that evening. Why were they going to the airport so early? Are you coming or not? Jeremy glanced at Steve. Actually, it might be better if you didn't. No way! Upon hearing Jeremy's words, Steve promptly joined his classmate in the vehicle. If you don't want me to go, that's exactly why I will. Jeremy snorted, closing the car door firmly. Oh my God, Steve, take a look. Seeing Jeremy open a pair of boxes at his side, Steve was astonished. Are these Desert Eagles? Do you know how to shoot? Jeremy asked, eyeing Steve as they looked at the guns. Of course, Steve affirmed. Most individuals from the 7 families were proficient in the shooting. They had been taught at a young age as a means of self-defense, because families like theirs were often the victim of ransom kidnappings overseas. Jeremy handed him another box and instructed, assemble it yourself. Okay. Steve popped open the box and examined its contents. Frowning, he commented, You gave me a Colt M1911 instead of the Desert Eagle. Aren't these two significantly different? Yeah. Jeremy rolled his eyes, exasperated with the excess chatter. Whatever, Steve complied and swiftly assembled the gun. At the same time, a few streets away, Chris's team converged on Olivia's car from various directions. Once they were on the highway, they entered a stretch of deserted barren land. As they reached the outskirts of this region, the driver discreetly activated a communication device hidden in his pocket. The designated starting point for their operation was merely a few miles ahead. Stop the car, Duke Lee abruptly commanded. What? The driver was taken aback. Why stop at this juncture? The signal had already been transmitted. I said stop the car, Duke Lee reiterated, his brow furrowing. But this is the highway, we can't stop. The driver's heart raced like a drum. He prayed he wouldn't be exposed in this situation. I need to use the restroom, Duke requested. Stop the car, I need to urinate. The driver clenched his teeth and turned off the engine. He couldn't stop the car now. Duke Lee exchanged a glance with the security detail seated in the front passenger seat. The latter raised his elbow and delivered a powerful blow to the driver's temple. He then swiftly took control of the steering wheel and executed a U-turn. Everything unfolded in a heartbeat. The car swayed slightly as it jolted to a stop. Stunned, Olivia was clueless about what had just transpired. This isn't the driver I hired, Duke Lee explained to her. The car came to a halt by the roadside. The front passenger swung open the driver's door, shoved the driver out, and slipped into the driver's seat, sealing the door. We'll backtrack down the junction and take an alternate route to approach from the next intersection, avoiding the compromised road. Duke Lee instructed the man in the passenger seat. Understood. The new driver acknowledged, swiftly steering the car down the road. A few blocks away, Pete's operatives received the signal, but spotted no sign of the targeted vehicle. Suspicious, they launched a search, and soon found the unconscious driver on the highway's edge. The operative immediately reported back to Pete. Sir, what's our next move? It's fine, continue ahead and block their path, Pete said, his lips curling into a sinister grin. They won't escape my grasp. He hung up and drew a diagonal line and an X on a map with a black pen. "If there's no gate into hell, we'll break in." Heading further north, Olivia's surroundings grew desolate. She looked over and watched Duke Lee's brow furrow. "Stop the car," he said again. "Of course, sir." His driver complied, hitting the brakes. "What's the issue now?" Olivia asked Duke Lee nervously. "This path is incorrect," Duke Lee said, swiftly drawing his gun. Simultaneously, the front passenger drew his gun and aimed at Duke, but Duke's reflexes proved swifter. He eliminated the passenger with a single shot before shielding Olivia's eyes. "Close your eyes, there's nothing to see." "Okay." Olivia clenched her fist, her palms sweaty. She should have understood the car's occupants' intentions, but she'd been more focused on how scared she was to use her gun and hadn't been reading the thoughts of the driver and the man in the front of the passenger seat. Her oversight nearly cost both her and Duke their lives. The weight of self-blame mingled with lingering fear, an uncomfortable sensation. Exiting the car, Duke Lee dragged the deceased driver out of the driver's seat and then got behind the wheel himself. Then he took out his phone, only to find an extremely weak signal. He couldn't contact his people. Though he had placed operatives along the way, this was clearly a signal dead zone. "Damn it," Duke Lee muttered, striking the steering wheel with his fist. "Liv, hold tight." Waiting for death wasn't an option. "All right," Olivia nodded. At that moment, a bullet shattered the rear window and whizzed past Olivia's face. "Get down!" Duke Lee roared and quickly started the car. He stepped on the accelerator and the car rushed forward like an arrow. Behind them, a military armored vehicle closed in. Olivia huddled in her seat as a hail of bullets whizzed by her. Her heart raced, fingers white-knuckled as they clutched the cushion. Just as the car was about to be riddled with holes, Duke Lee gritted his teeth and said, "Liv, jump out of the car." Olivia's brain issued the command to leap out of the car and jump quickly, yet her rigid body couldn't move. Finally, after some coaxing, her trembling hands managed to pry the door open, but her legs remained immobile, thwarting her escape. Observing this, Duke's expression soured. His brows furrowed and he turned abruptly, using the car's momentum to fling Olivia from the vehicle. Simultaneously, Duke hurled himself from the car, and moments later it careened forward into an embankment and exploded with a deafening bang. The explosion sent the pair flying several feet away. "Ah!" Instinctively shielding his head with his hands, Duke curled into a protective ball as he tumbled forward. The blast shockwave launched him through the air. Olivia experienced intense pain across her body. Her chest in particular ached, and every breath felt constricted and agonizing. Her ears rang, her stomach churned, and the world blurred before her eyes. This marked her second encounter with an explosion, and the experience remained profoundly unsettling. "Come on, we mustn't linger." Duke's demeanor grew grave. Scooping Olivia, who was still reeling from the blast's impact, he sprinted toward a shelter. "Let's go." Witnessing their car's explosion, the pursuing military armored vehicle also halted. 6 armed figures got out, each clutching a firearm. "How are you holding up?" Duke readied his gun and questioned Olivia. "I'm getting better," she winced. Though her body still throbbed with excruciating pain, her vision and hearing were improving. Olivia regarded Duke, her eyes full of uncertainty. What should she do now? "Do you remember how to shoot?" Duke loaded his gun and asked. "I do," Olivia confirmed, extracting the firearm from her thigh holster. Yet her hands trembled more violently by the moment. The cool touch of the gun helped to slightly steady her nerves. "Load the gun, release the safety, aim, pull the trigger," Duke directed, firing off a shot that accurately felled an adversary. "Okay," Olivia complied, loading her gun and releasing the safety mechanism. She intended to aim, but her shaking had intensified, forcing her to grit her teeth and shoot blindly. The bullet grazed the ground beside the enemy's feet. Another shot missed its mark as well. "Don't be so tense," Duke urged, steering Olivia to dodge incoming fire while returning shots with care. As the enemy drew closer, Olivia yearned for more accurate shots, Even if she merely clipped an assailant's leg, it would suffice. However, the more she fixated on precision, the more her aim faltered. With 4 shots fired, she hadn't hit a single target. Her body continued to quiver, her hand and wrist throbbing from the recoil. She had bitten her lower lip so hard that it left a neat line of teeth marks. Damn it! Duke's gaze hardened. He spotted the 2 remaining opponents hiding, seemingly out of reach. Then his gaze shifted to the sight of 3 additional armored vehicles closing in from the distance. Shit, he thought. He had only 1 bullet left, and with Olivia by his side, the precision shooting seemed unfeasible. At that moment, a BMW SUV appeared on the horizon, coming from the opposite direction. It sped up to where Duke and Olivia were, and its doors swung open, releasing a flurry of bullets that efficiently neutralized Olivia's nearby enemies. The vehicle executed a sharp turn and came to a halt, not far behind Olivia and Duke. Jeremy and Steve jumped out in quick succession. Jeremy! Olivia was taken aback by their sudden appearance. What were they doing here? Wow, do you really have to only mention him? Steve remarked sarcastically, though his expression was earnest. He tossed 2 magazines to Duke and said, Here you go. Thank you, Duke acknowledged, accepting the magazines. The approaching armored vehicles drew closer, disgorging a group of assailants who unleashed a hail of gunfire. The cacophony was deafening, a sensation similar to the buzz when the explosion had occurred. Olivia's sight wavered, and her heart raced while her chest constricted in distress. Each breath seemed rapid and labored. This extreme tension left her feeling profoundly uneasy. Her limbs seemed to defy her commands. Suddenly, her legs gave way, causing her to tumble to the ground. Watch out! Steve saw that Olivia was dangerously exposed now and frowned. Reacting swiftly, he reached out, pulling her to safety. However, a bullet cruelly punctured Steve's shoulder. Damn it! Steve yelled out. Agony radiated from the bullet wound in his left shoulder, causing his complexion to turn pale. Steve! Olivia shouted, stunned. Blood surged from the gaping hole in Steve's left shoulder. Desperately, she pressed her hand against the wound, but the warm blood seeped through her fingers. It proved impossible to stem the flow. Her mind blanked, and all she saw was the red blood before her eyes. The torrent of blood grew, and she cried out, No, don't die! Don't worry, I won't! Steve clenched his teeth, squeezing out the words. He wouldn't yield so easily. Albert, come stop the bleeding quickly, Jeremy ordered. Got it. Jeremy's driver, Albert, said, Sir, cover me for a moment. You got it. Jeremy nodded. He quickly switched his gun's magazine, providing cover for Albert. Albert guided Steve toward his SUV, using the vehicle as protection while he tended to Steve's wound. The acrid scent of blood wafted through the air, churning Olivia's stomach, and the sight of Steve's blood on her hands drained the color from her face and lips. She shut her eyes against the agony as images flashed before her. A night full of rain, a vision dominated by crimson, the searing pain of her arm being crushed, the fleeting glimpse of a speeding sports car. It merged with the sterile operating room, her brush with the precipice of death again and again. She had been transported back in her memory to that night she died in her previous life, after Pamela and Mark ran her over. Upon reopening her eyes, her gaze held a steely resolve. A ruthless glint flared within them, catching Jeremy and Duke off guard. They palpably sensed the transformation and even sensed a cold, creeping chill in the air. Load the gun, disengage the safety, aim, pull the trigger. Olivia repeated this mantra in her mind. Raising the gun, she targeted the nearest adversary, delivering a shot to their lower abdomen. A swift follow-up shot struck another opponent's right shoulder. As the enemy's shoulder gushed blood, Olivia's eyes turned even more fierce and intense. Resurrection hadn't come easy, and she wasn't about to meet her end in this place. The battle reached a stalemate, but Olivia, who had initially had zero combat training whatsoever, now found herself contributing effectively. While her accuracy wasn't remarkable, she managed to hit an adversary with every few shots. Albert attended to Steve's wound, applying a rudimentary bandaging before quickly returning to Jeremy's side, determined to safeguard his young boss. Drawing in a deep breath, Olivia steadied her gun-wielding hand, despite its numbness from recoil. Surprisingly clear-headed, she maneuvered the firearm more adeptly, though her ammunition was running low. After a magazine change, she turned to Duke. "Do you have any spare bullets?" "I'm out." Duke shook his head and glanced at Jeremy. "None left." Jeremy frowned. Limited preparation time had resulted in scarce weaponry, considering the hassle of passing security checks. "Damn it," Duke muttered under his breath, noticing 2 more armored vehicles approaching. It seemed that during the ongoing confrontation, their adversaries had summoned reinforcements. "Sir, what's our next move?" Albert looked to Jeremy, sweat glistening on his brow. He held a single purpose: to shield his boss from harm. Jeremy clenched his teeth, begrudgingly admitting their predicament. Regrettably, options were scant. Their SUV had already succumbed to a barrage of bullets, mercifully avoiding an explosion. Now, escape was implausible, given their remote, desolate location. There was no town or establishment nearby for refuge. Olivia gritted her teeth. She wouldn't meet her end in such a grim setting. Her vendetta remained unresolved. She couldn't allow herself to die. Gripping the weapon, a figure materialized in her thoughts. "Chris," she muttered. "What?" Jeremy directed a quizzical gaze at Olivia. Looking upwards, Olivia focused on the road's end. He would arrive without question. Sure enough, a fleet of vehicles converged behind the enemy's armored cars. The subsequent events unfolded dismally fast. Bullets poured from the rear, raining down like a deluge, dispatching all adversaries. Olivia's eyes gleamed. She knew he would come. Understanding Chris as she did, his promise to protect her would see fulfillment. Chris got out of his car and made a beeline for Olivia. He gripped her arm tightly, wrestling with a myriad of words but unsure where to begin. He wanted to explain that he was late because he and his men had diverted the assailants' attention, obstructing them from hurting anyone more than they already had. Sven had cracked Philadelphia's Transportation Bureau's traffic camera footage, so Chris could keep an eye on Olivia as she drove, and knew where she was when her vehicle was cut off from them. Throughout the journey, he'd prayed countless times for a safe outcome for Olivia. He yearned to reach them in time. Now, face to face with Olivia, a deluge of words poured out. Ultimately, he managed only to move his lips, voicing, "I'm late." Hearing his thoughts as well as his words, Olivia was touched. "Not at all," she said, gazing at Chris. Perhaps just in time was the more fitting phrase. "Chris, we'll handle the aftermath here. Why don't you two go over there and make sure you are both in one piece?" Sven indicated the dismantled SUV. Chris's gaze swept Olivia before leading her toward the vehicle. Jeremy observed the scene, brows furrowing, yet refrained from comment. Duke Lee's gaze narrowed slightly, uncertain about the circumstances that led Chris Jones arriving here. Rumors of the Jones family heir abounded, hinting at a darker identity. Unaware of the dynamics between Olivia and Chris, Duke needed to confer with his European counterparts to find out what they knew. But at least for now, Olivia was safe, he figured. Upon his return to Europe, Duke would find out more. Chris led Olivia over to the battered BMW SUV, where they looked at each other in silence for a moment, before Chris finally asked, "Are you scared?" "Yes," Olivia nodded honestly. Her fear had immobilized her, almost costing her life on several occasions. "Sorry, I was late," Chris apologized, well aware that he could have arrived earlier, sparing Olivia from these harrowing experiences. "You were not late, truly you weren't," Olivia smiled. Despite the frightening encounter, she hadn't emerged gravely injured, and her shooting skills had notably improved within this short span. Chris held Olivia's hand, concern evident in his gaze. "Your hand." "I'm okay." Olivia shook her head, certain in her reassurance. "I knew you would come. I was certain." His heart warmed. The trust she vested in him touched him deeply, leaving him momentarily speechless. Emotions he'd managed to steady now surged fervently once more. He extended his arm, pulling Olivia into his embrace. Meeting her gaze, he bared his soul to her. He had realized he'd truly fallen in love with her, no longer just due to her utility to him, but because he cherished her as she was, Olivia. Olivia found herself taken aback as Chris enfolded her in his arms, and as she read his mind. Now it seemed her favorable impression of Chris from the hotel incident had returned, only stronger. Coughing disrupted their moment, and their attention shifted toward the noise's source. "I've been shot and wounded. Could you find a different place to display your affection?" Steve's voice sounded somewhat exasperated. Even when injured, however, he seemed to somehow sound slightly teasing and sarcastic, but upbeat. "Oh my gosh." Olivia shook her head, shocked and slightly embarrassed, her cheeks flourishing as she hurried toward Steve. "How are you doing?" "I'm still breathing." Steve grinned. "Even in this state, you're talkative." Olivia rolled her eyes at him. "You won't be able to return to New York today. You should rest in Philly for a few days." "Then ask Jeremy to stay in Philadelphia with me," Steve suggested with a playful smirk. "Okay, I'll call Jeremy over," Olivia replied. "You can tell him yourself." "No, you tell him." Steve's grin widened. "If you let him know, he'll definitely agree." "All right," Olivia nodded. "I'll give it a shot." Olivia got up and walked to the opposite side of the car. Surveying the impromptu battlefield, she walked over to Sven and Jeremy and gestured toward the military armored vehicles. "What's the worth of all this, now that it's basically scrap metal?" "These are all decommissioned military armored vehicles, and military supplies are consumable. Typically, the price is pretty high for these," Sven replied. "Can they be resold?" Olivia asked. They were out in the middle of nowhere, so if someone could arrange for the vehicles to be picked up, someone could probably do something valuable with them. I'll check," Sven responded. He proceeded to examine the condition of this batch of armored vehicles. Returning, he stated, "Each vehicle could be sold for approximately $400,000. They're relatively new, even if they're decommissioned." "Then let's sell them," Olivia grinned, "and we'll give everyone in our group a fair share of the proceeds." She required funds to kickstart a business, so she was thinking like an entrepreneur now, making the best of every terrible situation she found herself in. How could she profit from this trauma, she wondered. Finding buyers might prove challenging, Jeremy mused. It'll be a black market, but if the prices drop to $300,000, they should sell reasonably well. "Then I'll leave it in your hands." Olivia patted Jeremy's shoulder and said, "May I?" "Sure," Jeremy agreed, looking at Olivia. "Steve is injured. I doubt he can return to New York City today. Would you be willing to stay and keep him company for a few days?" Olivia wasn't entirely confident when voicing this. One reason was her lack of authority, and the other was her indirect responsibility for Steve's injury. If she wished to stay, she should, but Steve was asking Jeremy to stay with him. "Sure," Jeremy nodded. He had brought Steve here, making it his responsibility to see to it that Steve's condition improved. "Thank you," Olivia expressed her gratitude. "Can I trust the car sales to you?" After her journey to Philadelphia, she planned to ask Ansel Parr for help. Olivia hoped for a capable assistant like Michael had in Ansel Parr. "Hey, Olivia, not to cut this whole debrief after the bloodbath thing short, but it's time to leave. Otherwise you won't catch your flight." Sven checked his watch and informed her. "Oh wait, didn't your flight take off at 1:30? I don't think we'll be able to make it." "Let's reschedule." Olivia consulted her watch and decided. "I'll contact Ansel Parr, my father's assistant. She'd prefer to hand this matter to Ansel anyway." Olivia aspired to have a personal assistant like Ansel one day. "How long does it take from here to the airport? What's the time now?" she asked. "Well, the fastest we could get there would be like 2 o'clock, Sven estimated. "So I'd change your flight to the 4 o'clock one so you have time to check your bags and get through security," he suggested. He and Chris were also on that flight, so they could keep an eye on her and make sure she was safe. Olivia reeled, thinking how odd it was that they were acting so normal after just going through something so strange and traumatic. She'd basically been in a war zone on a distressed stretch of country road in the backwoods of Pennsylvania mere minutes ago, and now they were talking about changing flights like nothing had happened. Maybe Sven was talking about mundane things on purpose, to keep her brain from reliving the trauma. She thought, suddenly appreciating the kind gesture on his part. "All right, I'll do the 4 o'clock flight." Olivia nodded. turning to make a call to Anselpar. Meanwhile, Chris remained beside the damaged BMW SUV. Steve sat before him, appearing worse for wear. Chris regarded him in silence. "Chris, you're staring at me so intently. I'm worried you might fall for me," Steve quipped, breaking the silence. "You're really in a sorry state right now." Chris squatted in front of Steve, noting his condition. "Really?" Steve attempted to shrug, but found it arduous. "You don't look like someone who would stab his grandmother 3 times in a row," Chris said with a sneer. Steve froze. How does he know about that? Steve asked himself. Nobody here knows about my past. Then again, he thought, maybe he shouldn't be so surprised by Chris's knowledge. Despite the Shook family's attempts to keep the matter under wraps and relocate him to New York City, news about Steve's past would inevitably reach the Jones family in London, wouldn't it? Since both families were based there. Similarly, the Kong family must have caught wind of it. Still, Steve chose to bluff. "I don't recall having a grandmother in her 20s. Chris pursed his lips and refrained from further commentary. "Well, not your grandmother by birth, but your step-grandma, the one your elderly grandpa married." It was indeed unusual for the elderly head of the Shook family to marry a 25-year-old at the age of 60. So Chris remembered it well when it happened. All the London tabloids went wild with gossip, but which wealthy family didn't have its eccentricities? Of course, not all the families had a grandson who was then accused of stabbing the step-grandma. "Do you wish to speak to me privately, or is that all you wanted to say?" Steve asked Chris. "What do you think I want to tell you?" Chris countered. "Well, it seems you want to tell me that you believe I'm a ruthless killer," Steve retorted with a scoff, continuing. "Do you see my presence by Olivia's side as a potential threat to her?" "Huh," Chris chuckled. "People say you stabbed your grandpa's wife 3 times in a row. Did you really do that?" He stood up, turning to leave. "You don't strike me as a fool who'd commit such an act. Stabbing a family's matriarch like that? How foolish would one have to be to undertake such a risk? I remember hearing that you are the leading heir of the Shook family. You have no reason to jeopardize yourself in such a manner." As Steve watched Chris depart, the smile on his face gradually faded. Even an outsider like Chris believed in him. Yet his own family members turned against him, banishing him from London when people started fingering him for the murder of his step-grandma. Throughout the ordeal, the only individual who had faith in him was his younger brother, Daniel Shook. Upon Steve's expulsion from London, Daniel had vowed to sever all connections with the rest of the Shook family. His determination led to a brutal beating, and he subsequently fled in secret, hiding in Steve's car, leaving their family behind together. Strangers trusted Steve, while his own blood denounced him as a ruthless, heartless devil. They were swayed by the actions of a woman who had acted on her own accord. "Steve," someone said. The sound of his name snapped Steve out of his reverie. He focused on the speaker. "Huh? What's the matter?" "I'm heading out." Olivia crouched down, facing Steve. "You should rest and recover in Philadelphia. Jeremy agreed to stay by your side." "Sure," Steve smiled. "Travel safely. Watch out on your journey. I won't be able to swoop in and shield you from bullets anymore." Olivia chuckled. She kneeled down to express her gratitude, saying, "Thank you for today." "What, are you proposing to me?" Steve laughed. "Why would I offer myself to you?" "You clearly have enough on your plate as it is," Olivia retorted, trying to keep things light to distract him from the pain. Then she patted Steve's hand. "I'll see you when we all get back to the city. Have a good time with Jeremy." Steve remained rooted in his spot for a moment, processing the situation, before wincing in pain from his injury. Olivia got in a car that slowly wound its way back from the deserted backwoods of Pennsylvania to the highway, before finally shakily arriving at the airport. As soon as she was safely inside, Olivia rushed to the restroom to change into a fresh dress. Her arms and legs bore severe abrasions, so she opted for a loose bohemian ankle-length dress to hide the bruises and cuts on her limbs. As she gazed at the gun strapped to her thigh, a sense of unease crept in. The mirror revealed bloodstains on both sides of her neck, prompting her to tidy her hair, letting it cascade over her shoulders. Having tidied up, she approached Dukley and asked cautiously, Will my gun really go undiscovered if I wear it like this? Yes, don't worry, Duke assured, making an okay gesture with his hands. We have TSA agents who work for us in the security line. All right, Olivia nodded in response, relieved by his reassurance. She rearranged her boarding pass, and though her heart was racing, she passed through security smoothly. Her relief only fully set in when she finally boarded the plane, though. With just one bullet remaining in her gun, she reserved it for only the most dire emergency. Once she sat in her designated seat, Olivia discovered that Sven and Chris were on the same flight. She remembered Sven told her to change her flight to this one. After some seat rearrangements with the flight attendant's help, the trio convened, exchanging lively conversation and laughter, eager to put the traumatic events they had just endured out of their minds and behind them. During the flight, they relished the provided dinner, followed by delectable pudding and ice cream. The 2 to 3 hours in the air passed without much strain. As they touched down in New York, night had blanketed the sky. Glancing out of the window, Olivia observed the twinkling city lights below. A mix of belonging and weight settled in her chest. She had returned to New York, her home and battleground. She felt like a soldier re-entering the fray. Despite feeling like a barrage of bullets possibly awaited her at some point once again, she couldn't retreat. To step back was to live only as a lifeless shell. She felt as though she had crossed an invisible threshold into a new phase of her life, one where her life's mission had taken on a new dimension. She would not just silently seek revenge on those who had killed her. No, now she would outwardly be fighting larger circles of people, organizations, who had been responsible for destroying her entire family. And I'm going to make them pay, Olivia vowed. The plane landed at JFK Airport. Stepping into the baggage claim area, Olivia spotted Ansel Parr waiting for her. Waving farewell to Sven and Chris, she approached Ansel and greeted him. Hello, Ansel. Welcome back, miss. Ansel Parr beamed, taking Olivia's small suitcase. I hope you had a wonderful trip, and it wasn't too bad. It wasn't difficult, it went well, she replied. At least she returned alive. Ansel, how's my father doing recently? She asked. Ansel Parr hesitated briefly before responding. The company has been busy these days. Your dad's been occupied, often skipping meals. Understood. Olivia nodded. And you enjoyed your trip? Ansel Parr asked. Any highlights? Nothing comes to mind. Olivia kept her reply succinct. Upon their return to the Johnson family mansion from the airport, Olivia found her dad, Michael, reading a newspaper on the couch, waiting for her. Spotting Olivia's entrance, he stood and greeted her. You're back. Yes, father, Olivia acknowledged. Have you eaten, or are you hungry? Michael asked. Olivia answered. I ate during the flight. Very well. Michael reached out and ruffled Olivia's hair. Get some rest, then. Dad, there's something I need to talk to you about. Olivia fixed a deep gaze on Michael. Certain matters demanded her action and intervention now that she was aware of them. Sure. Michael surmised that the events might have occurred in Philadelphia that she would want to discuss, so he suggested, let's head to the upstairs study and have a conversation there. All right, Olivia agreed with a nod. Ansel, you can go home and get some rest, Michael instructed. Yes, sir, Ansel Parr responded. Ansel, thank you for the ride today, Olivia acknowledged, giving Ansel Parr a nod. You're welcome. It's my duty, Ansel Parr responded, his gaze carrying the hope that Olivia could urge Michael to maintain a healthy eating routine. After all, his well-being was a priority. Olivia grasped Ansel Parr's intention without a word, nodding almost imperceptibly. Seeing this, Ansel Parr laughed, reassured. Michael directed one of the maids to carry Olivia's luggage upstairs before guiding her to the study. With the door closed, Michael asked, What's going on? What do you need to tell me? Dad. Olivia rolled up her sleeves, revealing a sizable arm wound, and then pushed up her hair, exposing the bruised sides of her neck. More shocking than what was visible at the airport. Lifting her skirt, the leg wound had already scabbed over in an unsightly state. What happened? Michael's eyes widened. Dad, I barely made it back. Olivia attempted to sound casual. There was an ambush on the way to the airport, so we changed our flight to later. An ambush? Who would do such a thing? Michael was startled. Why would someone attack his 17-year-old daughter during the gathering of the 7 families? Olivia was but a child. I don't know. Olivia shook her head. Some matters couldn't be revealed now. Olivia, don't be scared. Michael gripped Olivia's hands and guided her to a chair by the desk. I'll arrange bodyguards for you immediately. No need. Olivia shook her head. Dad, that was in Philly. I believe they won't pursue us now that we're in New York. Who are they and why target you? Michael's brow furrowed. His thoughts were in turmoil. He couldn't fathom the reasons. I don't really know who they are, but... Olivia hesitated, then continued. I have a vague idea why. Why? Michael looked at her, intrigued. I met someone in Philadelphia. He was also attending the meeting. Olivia explained. His name is Jed Park. Park? Michael composed himself, his heart sinking, as in, the Park family is back. It explained a lot. Yes, Olivia nodded, aware of what Michael was thinking. Dad, did my grandfather, my mom's dad, upset the 7 families? Is he a bad person? No. Michael shook his head. While your grandfather's temperament is eccentric, he's not evil. Quite the contrary. He's a remarkable man. Michael held a deep admiration for Andrew Park. Dad, then why would someone want to kill me? Olivia pressed. It's not just me either. Jed was ambushed too. Really? God, how's he doing? Michael asked. He's all right. Olivia shook her head. He managed to escape as well. He's probably back overseas by now. Is your grandfather's family abroad? Michael mused aloud. The thought of Victoria's potential joy upon learning the Park family was alive and well came to mind. He wished he could see her face when she learned the news. Yes, Olivia responded, offering Michael a playful look. Dad, the people from the 7 families seem really strange. I don't like them. The 7 great families have been separated for so many years. Michael sighed. Olivia, you'll have to interact with them frequently in the future. Just be civil when you're around them. I understand, Olivia nodded. But the Park family is also one of the 7 big families. So why does it seem like they're all distancing themselves from my grandfather? When someone's intellect is remarkably brilliant, it can't help but invite jealousy from others. Michael furrowed his brows slightly. Olivia, how's your grandfather doing? I heard from Jed that he's doing fine, Olivia affirmed. Dad, they were quite surprised about your separation from Mom. Jed and the rest of the Parks thought you two would still be together. Michael's head dropped slightly at the mention. He had pledged to Andrew Park that he would care for Victoria for the rest of his life, but he had broken that vow now. Right. Olivia shifted the conversation, inquiring, Dad, have you found the 20 million? Not yet. Michael's gaze flickered. Let's not discuss this right now. Why not? Olivia could tell Michael was evading her. She surmised that he might have discovered the involvement of his own father and Bruno. 20 million is a significant sum. I'm aware. Michael glanced at the stack of papers on his desk. Olivia, go back to your room and rest. I need to work. All right. Olivia stood up, not pressing further. She knew the anguish in Michael's heart. He was an adept at expressing his emotions. The ones causing him pain were now his father and his own brother. Even if they had repeatedly acted against him, knowing Michael's nature, he wouldn't retaliate. He could only feel hurt and seek introspection. At present, Michael was likely struggling to face this harsh reality. Olivia understood that changing Michael's perspective wasn't something that could be accomplished in a mere day or night. The more challenging it seemed, the more she couldn't give up, however. Shutting the study door, she inhaled deeply. It was apparent that it was time to help reshape Michael's mindset. As she descended the staircase, Olivia crossed paths with Monica and Rachel. Seeing Olivia's returning demeanor, Monica grinned. Wow, Olivia, back already? Yes, Olivia replied nonchalantly. Olivia, was Philadelphia enjoyable? Rachel asked, also directing her gaze toward Olivia. She had anticipated Olivia's downfall when Bruno informed her of his plans to attack her on her way out of town. Yet, Olivia managed to escape with her life. Absolutely thrilling, Olivia responded with a hint of mischief. She paused, regarding Rachel thoughtfully. I heard quite a bit of gossip in Philadelphia, though. Pretty juicy gossip, too. Olivia shook her head. Initially, I thought having a daughter-in-law and father-in-law affair like the Cooper family was already salacious enough. To my surprise, I heard tales of certain affluent families engaging in inappropriate relationships, including sister-in-law and younger brothers. She said this while giving a pointed look to Rachel. The wealthy circles are truly rife with all sorts of scandals, aren't they? Rachel's face drained of color, shock evident in her expression. Does Olivia have inside information about me and Bruno? She worried. Olivia, the Cooper family scandal passed a long time ago. There's no need to bring it up anymore. Monica chimed in, unaware of the connection between Rachel and Bruno. She simply presumed that Olivia was intentionally mentioning the Cooper family matter to embarrass Rachel and Monica. True, it's been a while, Olivia acknowledged, her gaze shifting to Rachel. Auntie Rachel, you must be disappointed that I returned alive, aren't you? Rachel's heart raced, and her palms grew damp. She couldn't tell if Olivia was simply pretending to have heard gossip to mock the Cooper family's past, or if she genuinely knew something. Rachel forced herself to appear composed. You're tired, my dear. That's just your imagination talking. My mom's right, Monica added with a light smile, nodding. While she secretly hoped Olivia wouldn't return, she couldn't express such thoughts openly. You really like teasing, don't you? Then take it as a joke. Olivia offered no further words and walked past Rachel and Monica to retreat to her room. Rachel clenched her fists, unease gnawing at her. Monica pursed her lips. She believed her recent performance had endeared her to Michael. If given more time, she was certain she could solidify her position in Michael's heart. However, just when she was gaining ground, Olivia returned like an unforeseen specter. That was annoying, Monica muttered under her breath, before taking a deep breath to quell her frustration. She couldn't afford to let her emotions show. She needed to mimic Olivia's demeanor flawlessly. Monica, it's time for you to head to bed for the night. Rachel's expression soured. Mommy has some matters to attend to. All right, Mommy. Monica acquiesced and returned to her room. See you tomorrow. In the empty garden, Rachel dialed Bruno's number. Olivia's survival and potential knowledge of Rachel's affair were both deeply unsettling. As soon as Bruno picked up the phone, Rachel said, Does she know? He didn't even have time to say hello before Rachel added, About us, does she know? Bruno remained silent for a prolonged moment before stating, She doesn't know. Bruno had been cautious in their past dealings. His involvement with Rachel, she shouldn't overthink it. Your focus should be on instructing Monica to perfect the tasks I assigned. We can't afford any delay, he emphasized, aware that time was running out. Fine. Understood, Rachel replied, though her concerns persisted. Can we eliminate Olivia in New York just to be safe? My father won't approve of that, Bruno asserted. Don't worry about this. Concentrate on training Monica daily. Everything needs to be executed flawlessly by July. Okay, Rachel complied. After ending the call, Rachel stared at the moon in the night sky. The moon, round and glowing and high in the sky, was veiled by clouds and slightly dimmed. One wrong step at a time, Rachel repeated to herself. She had erred 15 years ago, resulting in a lingering disaster involving Bruno. Why had she repeated her mistake this time, despite loving Michael deeply? Closing her eyes, Rachel bit her lower lip gently, displaying a hint of remorse. When she opened her eyes again, her expression had transformed into one of determination. This secret must not reach Michael, she told herself. Even if it meant opposing Grandpa Jack, Olivia's lips had to be sealed. Permanently. Rachel couldn't allow Michael to know what she had done with Bruno. Her love for Michael surpassed everything else, and she would not let anyone take her beloved away from her. No one. In her room, Olivia cleaned her body and used the medicine Jeremy had provided to tend to her wounds. Luckily, they were all pretty superficial injuries, but they were numerous. The force of the explosion had been quite intense when she landed. She remembered tumbling several times. At that moment, her phone began to ring. Setting her medicine aside, Olivia picked up the phone. "Hello? It's me." A male voice came from the other end. "Jeremy," Olivia responded eagerly. "How's Steve?" "He's doing all right. He's already asleep," Jeremy replied. "His wounds have been treated. We're scheduled to return to school on May 10th. "That's good," Olivia said, relieved. She glanced at her nails, which had grown slightly longer these few days. Despite Steve's sarcastic remarks and prickly demeanor, he's genuinely a good person. "Agreed," Jeremy acknowledged and continued. "I've listed the armored cars for auction on the dark web. We've set the initial bidding at $250,000 per vehicle. The firearms have also been posted at a lower price, and we should get some bites by tomorrow." "That's great," Olivia smiled. "Just remember to share some profits with me when the time comes." "All right," Jeremy replied. "How are you feeling now?" "Me? I'm fine," Olivia answered, then glimpsed at her bare upper body in the mirror, covered in scattered bloodstains and large bruises. She hesitated briefly, offering an awkward smile. "Mostly." "Then get some rest," Jeremy said before ending the call. "Good night." After hanging up and taking an Advil, Olivia donned a soft cotton nightdress and organized her school bag. She'd be returning to school tomorrow since she was back home. With her things neatly arranged, she settled down to sleep early. After all, she needed to recover her energy. For almost the entire last month, one thing after another had kept her busy. Finally, back in her own space, Olivia felt a sense of relief. Before long, she drifted off to sleep. But while Olivia finally slept soundly in the safety of her own bed once again, there were individuals elsewhere who wouldn't find rest for several nights. "Damn it!" Pete Pell yelled in frustration, hurling his cup to the ground. His resources had been seized, and even the weapons and armored vehicles were being advertised on the dark web by his enemies. All of it belonged to him. "Sir, what's our next move?" a concerned subordinate asked Pete. "What else can we do? Buy them back?" Pete's tone was grim. Those items were brand new investments in assets. Olivia and Jed were alive and well, and Bruno had made a mockery of him by slashing the $10 million down to $5. It was a blatant humiliation. At the same time in New York City, Sven balanced a bowl of freshly cooked ramen noodles in one hand while keeping his eyes on his computer screen. "Chris, Jeremy has listed the vehicles online, on dark web and elsewhere." "Is anyone bidding yet?" Chris asked. "Yes, there's one person as of right now," Sven reported, glancing at the list. "Look into them," Chris said with a smirk. "I have a feeling it's mostly Pete Pell." Sven chuckled, taking a big bite of instant noodles before setting the bowl aside. While chewing, he rapidly typed on the keyboard. After hitting the enter key, he grinned. "I think this really may be Pete." "Let's join the bidding with him, then," Chris suggested, a playful glint in his eyes. "Those items are new. Let's engage with him gradually. We'll match 80% of the starting price." "Chris, you're quite cunning," Sven chimed in with a mischievous smile. "But that's exactly what I was hoping for." In Philadelphia, Pete's subordinate was informing him about the situation. "Sir, we're being bid against by someone." "Let's match their bid," Pete responded, his brow furrowing. As the bidding reached 80%, Pete hesitated. "Are we still continuing, sir?" the subordinate asked. "No, don't bid anymore," Pete replied, his expression tense. Despite his anger, he understood the situation. No matter how high the bidding went, it wasn't worth it now. He could use the money more wisely to acquire new equipment. "Sir, the opposing party has withdrawn from the bidding," the subordinate informed him. "In that case, let's proceed," Pete decided. "Understood." The subordinate nodded and processed the payment on the dark web. Jeremy met the dark web personnel the following day. He handed over the payment and received the items. "Who is the seller?" Pete asked when the goods arrived. "I'm sorry, I'm only responsible for delivering the goods. If there are no issues upon inspection, please confirm receipt." The man handing over the goods replied with a smile. Though Pete was irritated, he gestured for his subordinate to proceed with the inspection. Once it was confirmed, he nodded. "Thank you." Pete expressed his gratitude. As the man left, Pete turned his attention to his subordinate. "Why didn't you capture and interrogate him? He's not just a delivery man, but likely connected to the seller." His subordinate quickly lowered his head upon being scolded. After receiving the payment, Jeremy checked the amount. The total value of the armored vehicles, firearms, and ammunition amounted to just over $1 million. He texted Olivia how much he would give her after splitting the profits evenly, and then requested her bank account details. $160,000? Olivia read the text message on her phone, taken aback. She had initially hoped to make a few $1,000s at most from the sale. Who would have thought she'd be getting such a substantial share? "Hey, Liv, you're up for the 800-meter run soon," Millie said, pulling Olivia's focus. "Ready?" Olivia looked up, remembering she was at track practice. She immediately put her phone away. "Always ready." Olivia feigned seriousness, giving a playful salute. "Sorry you have to run an 800-meter test as soon as you return from break. Quite unlucky," Wendy noted, resting her chin on her hands. Since sports practice had started up again, she had developed a liking for running. Running 800 meters was quite manageable for her. "Group 4, gather at the starting line," the sports teacher called out from a short distance away. "That's me." Olivia clapped her hands together and walked toward the runway. Here goes nothing. Standing on the track, Olivia noticed Pamela Cox approaching as well and preparing to run the 800-meter timed trial, too. Pamela, donning a yellow pair of running shorts, was warming up next to her, moving her limbs in preparation for the test. "Olivia, where were you last week?" Pamela's irritation surged as she recalled her absence. Pamela thought back to her own past week. Mark DeLillo had visited from Chicago because Pam coaxed him here using Olivia as an excuse, claiming she had plans with her that Olivia bailed on last minute. Pamela had then spent 2 days with Mark. By May 3rd, though, the ruse could no longer be upheld. When Pamela called Olivia, she discovered her number had been blocked. Getting Olivia's number from the Johnson family mansion was no simple feat. It turned out that Olivia had been out of New York City altogether. When Mark departed from New York, Pamela couldn't imagine how she would explain his absence. Frustration surged as she mentally berated Olivia countless times. "Why should I tell you?" Olivia cast a glance at Pamela. "You." Pamela bit her lip. A notion struck her, causing a smirk to curve Olivia's lips. "How about this? If you can run faster than me, I'll spill the beans." "No." Pamela's face reddened. "That's not fair for me." Today marked the beginning of her menstrual cycle, and she was already feeling uncomfortable. She needed to run this race to make her coach happy, but she didn't want to give it her all because her cramps were so bad today. "That's your problem," Olivia said, hearing Pamela's thoughts and understanding her reasons for not wanting to race Olivia. But that's why Olivia made this proposal. "Don't push it." Pamela clenched her teeth, finding Olivia more repulsive than ever. Olivia gestured toward her temple, remarking, "You were the one who wanted answers. You expect to gain something from me without exerting any effort? Do you believe the entire world revolves around you? How absurd." Pamela stared at Olivia, reluctantly conceding to her point. She realized that if she wanted to make Mark happy again, it would help if she could tell him exactly where Olivia had been this past week. So this race might be her only option to find out. "Fine, if I can beat you, you must tell me where you were. You also need to clarify things with Mark DeLillo since you essentially stood him up when I told him you and I would hang out with him." Pamela didn't want Mark to believe she'd been playing games with him or stringing him along. It wasn't her fault that Olivia had left New York City. She didn't even know about it. "Clarify?" Olivia sneered. "Pamela, is your language teacher the same as me? What you want isn't an explanation, but lies. Regardless, are you agreeing to do what I want if I win this little race or not?" Pamela lifted her chin challengingly. "Fine, I agree." Olivia snorted coldly, a hint of a smile playing on her lips. At that moment, their coach called out, Students from Group 4 on your marks. Upon hearing the signal, Olivia and Pamela both positioned themselves on the starting line for the race. Get set, go! At that moment, both girls sprinted off at full speed. Pamela had previously been part of the track and field team in middle school. Though she hadn't continued training in high school, her foundation remained. Her experience and skills were still intact. While Olivia had put in effort to prepare for the sports event, she had since stopped. Running now proved strenuous for her. Both girls exerted themselves to reach the finish line. Only within the final 50 meters did the gap appear relatively small. Finally, as they crossed the finish line, Pamela was 0.35 seconds ahead of Olivia. Panting, she raised her chin, declaring, "Olivia, now you have to tell me and make things right with Marg." For the first time, she had triumphed over Olivia, and a surge of pride filled her. This was just the beginning. She intended to repeatedly surpass Olivia in the future, asserting her superiority. God! Olivia panted heavily. Her physical stamina fell short. It seemed she needed to incorporate daily exercise into her routine. All right. Olivia admitted defeat, willing to bet and disclose the information. I'll tell you, Before Olivia could finish her sentence, a girl's voice interrupted. Pamela, you're bleeding. All heads turned to Pamela. She too was taken aback and quickly touched the back of her leg. Sure enough, she saw blood. Oh no. Olivia drew in a sharp breath. Pamela's shorts from her buttocks to her thighs were entirely saturated in red, the blood spreading rapidly. Pamela's face instantly went beet red. The flush that had colored her cheeks moments ago then began to turn crimson as embarrassment washed over her. The boys on her team pointed and laughed at her. Quick, cover it up! A girl who had just crossed the finish line rushed over, stripping off her sports jacket and tying it around Pamela's waist. Yeah, you can keep this jacket. No need to return it to me. Sensing the stares of those around her, Pamela's mind went blank. A buzzing noise filled her ears. Her vision blurred, and she toppled backwards. The last thing she heard before losing consciousness was the girl who had offered her jacket exclaiming, "Coach, this is bad. Pamela lost a lot of blood and fainted." One girl yelled. Why did they have to mention be my name? Pamela came to and thought, so now everyone knows. This was her final thought before she passed out again. Observing the scene, Olivia couldn't help but feel slightly bad for Pamela. It seemed like Pamela's luck was truly unfortunate. During this year's physical fitness assessment, all the student athletes were assembled on the sports field. So Pamela lay on the track at the center, enshrouded in front of everyone in what would be quickly coined the field of blood. I didn't even have to do this one, Olivia thought. It seems the universe is working its own karmic magic against Pamela, without me even having to lift a finger sometimes. She smiled slightly, seeing this as a sign that Pamela deserved everything that was happening to her. I suppose, Olivia thought, it's meant to be then. After having lunch, Olivia's plan was to take a nap in the classroom. However, that plan was quickly disrupted when Frances approached her with a thick folder in hand. Hey, Liv, mind if I join you? I'll sit in Jeremy's spot and discuss something with you, Frances said. Sure. Olivia gave up on her afternoon nap and stood up to make room for him. Thanks. Frances took a seat in Jeremy's place and said, I'd like to show you Wendy's designs and ideas. He extracted a pile of papers from his folder. These are Wendy's drawings. I believe they have a lot of potential. Absolutely. Olivia accepted the papers and examined them. Wendy's distinctive style was unmistakable, reflecting her cute yet industrially inspired touch. Wow. After evaluating them individually, Olivia nodded. These are quite good. Great, so now that you've seen these concepts, do you prefer 2D or 3D for the game? Frances asked. Let's combine the two. Employ 3D for character modeling and 2D hand-drawn environments. This should streamline the production process considerably, Olivia suggested after a moment of consideration. Another issue is the challenge of game development, Frances admitted with a furrowed brow. Doing it on my own is proving to be quite tough. Programming alone isn't sufficient. Olivia acknowledged the difficulty. Just then, a male voice from across the room broke in. "Olivia, can you step out in the hall for a moment? I need to talk to you," the voice requested. "Zach?" Olivia turned in the direction of the voice. "Sure." She signaled for Francis to wait momentarily before following Zach Colston out of the classroom. Once they found a quiet corner at the end of the hallway, Olivia said, "Zach, what's going on?" "My sister's surgery was successful. Everything went well." Zach expressed his gratitude with a deep bow. "I owe this to you. Thank you so much." "I'm relieved the surgery went well. That's fantastic news," Olivia replied with a smile. "Just please make sure your sister gets plenty of rest. And if you guys need anything in the future, please let me know. My parents have always wanted to repay you, but I'm not sure how to go about it." Zach rubbed his hands together, appearing somewhat distressed. "Repay me for what?" Olivia patted Zach's shoulder. "I just lent you some money. You can return it whenever you're able. There's no need for you to feel obligated. I overheard you and Francis talking about the need for some programmers for a game you're developing. I understand you're involved in it, right?" Zach said as he looked up at Olivia. "I'd like to help." "Wait, really?" Olivia brightened up. "Do you know programming?" "Yes," Zach affirmed. "My father is a programmer, and my sister and I picked up some knowledge from him. Additionally, my sister works in a research and development company. I've learned a bit about game development from her insights. I figure maybe this is how I could pay you back, by offering my expertise. Or, well, what little expertise I do have. It's the least I could do." "That's fantastic," Olivia exclaimed. "You're welcome to join us. We'll provide compensation for your contributions too, of course. You don't have to pay me. Just the opportunity to assist is rewarding enough," Zach responded with a quick wave of his hand. "And to repay you in any way I can." Olivia smiled. Her heart warmed. "Come on, follow me." After Olivia finished speaking, she led Zach back to the classroom. "Francis, I found you an extra pair of hands." "Hmm?" Francis looked away from Wendy's artwork and turned his attention to Olivia. "You found help?" "Exactly." Olivia gestured toward Zach. "Zach here knows how to program." "Really? Oh my God, that's fantastic news." Francis's eyes brightened with enthusiasm, realizing this could significantly ease his workload. "Do you plan on creating a computer game or a mobile game?" Zach asked. "Computer game," Olivia answered. "To monetize, we can sell in-game items like weapons, magic, equipment, and unlockable levels." Zach thought for a moment before remembering something. "There's a mobile game competition scheduled for July, too. Participating might save us some advertising costs." "I'm familiar with that competition," Francis nodded. "However, we're still in the initial stages of design. I'm concerned it might be too late." "We can make it if we work together," Zach affirmed. "As long as we provide the core technology and original design, we can outsource other aspects of the project." "Outsourcing?" Wendy, who had just come over to find Olivia, was taken aback. "Is that really an option?" "Of course, the market has numerous game outsourcing firms," Zach explained to Wendy. "With our core game elements controlled, we can directly handle character modeling and embellishments while outsourcing the rest for a faster development process." "What about the costs?" Olivia asked. "It might be pricier to hire directly, but I can seek assistance from my sister. Her company specializes in online gaming research and development and has connections with various outsourcers." "Wouldn't your sister still be recovering from her surgery?" Wendy expressed concern. "It doesn't seem appropriate to disturb her. I recall your sister recently underwent surgery for a benign tumor. She should rest." "It's not a problem. A simple phone call will suffice," Zach reassured. He knew his sister would be glad to help Olivia, considering all she's done for their family. "Thank you." Olivia expressed her gratitude. "Then let's set our sights on the July mobile game competition." "Agreed," the others nodded. "Given that, let's delegate responsibilities," Zach proposed after a brief pause. "Things are a bit scattered right now. Assigning roles will help streamline our efforts." "Sounds good." Olivia glanced at the time. "We have a class soon. How about this? Jeremy and the others should be back this Saturday. We can convene then and discuss further." She remembered Jeremy was also part of their team, and she felt bad leaving him out. "That works," they agreed. Zach then turned his attention to Wendy's design drafts, making some adjustments to accommodate the transition to a 3D model. Most changes were to prevent awkward intersections in the 3D environment, and Wendy was receptive to his suggestions. As the small team's dynamics improved, Olivia felt a genuine sense of satisfaction. "By the way, what company does your sister work for?" Olivia asked Zach. "Confluence Technology," Zach replied. "She's part of the research and development department there." "Confluence Technology?" Olivia was taken aback, glancing at Wendy. "The one on the 4th floor of the Flatbridge building at 276 Commerce Road?" Wendy asked. "Yeah, you know about it?" Zach wondered. "My mom used to work there," Olivia stated after a brief pause. "She was in the finance department." "What a coincidence," Wendy chuckled. "Indeed," Zach concurred. "Speaking of the finance department, my sister mentioned that the department manager there was pursuing one of the employees. The employee seemed to be more senior than the manager. He revealed that his sister often shared tidbits about the company with him. Apparently, the whole company knew about it except for the employee." Olivia and Wendy exchanged glances again, finding the situation quite awkward. Liv thought of Nate Evans, the manager who seemed to have a crush on her mom, but she let it go for now. She had more important things to focus on. On May 10th, Steve and Jeremy returned to school for reporting. Steve's shoulder was still in the process of healing, but he had managed to avoid any bone injuries. Now, with the healing process underway, his main issue was the itching from the new tissue. To prevent anyone from accidentally touching his healing shoulder, he stood at the front of the classroom on his first day back and announced, "I injured my shoulder during my family vacation, so please refrain from giving me overly enthusiastic hugs or anything like that. I might not survive it." He wasn't sure if his reflexive reaction to pain would lead to a potentially fatal collision with someone else. "Is it that bad?" Everyone looked at Steve, noticing that he still appeared a bit pale. "Just keep it in mind for now. Steve's dealing with an injury, so let's all be mindful of that and offer us support in other ways. Just avoid touching his shoulder," their teacher explained. "What happens if we do touch it?" someone asked with curiosity. "It might start bleeding," Steve replied. "Haha." Both Olivia and Millie burst into laughter simultaneously, remembering the incident with Pamela during the sports test. A few feet away, Pamela's face turned sour, wanting nothing more than to forget that embarrassing memory. The rest of the class remained silent, recalling the incident as well. Perplexed, Steve glanced at everyone, unaware of his blunder. What did he say wrong? What was wrong with mentioning the bleeding? He exchanged a puzzled look with Jeremy, who also seemed baffled. Their teacher, Adam, was pondering how to shift the topic to avoid any more awkwardness in his classroom when Steve interjected. "I'm weirded out by the sudden silence in the air. What is going on?" Steve's words amused everyone, and they snickered. All right, Adam said. "Everyone, let's get started on our lesson. You two, get back to your seats." They returned to their seats. Wendy had been anxious since learning about Steve's injury. She kept her eyes on his shoulder and fretted, her hands anxiously interlocking. Wendy found it difficult to concentrate during the lesson, her mind consumed with concern for Steve. As the class concluded, students gathered around Steve's desk, inquiring about his well-being. Despite Steve's subsequent transfer to another school, he remained cheerful and amiable, making him quite popular in the class. Wendy was eager to ask, but her courage faltered. Instead, she approached Olivia and whispered to Jeremy. "Jeremy, do you know how Steve got injured?" Jeremy glanced at Olivia, who nodded, and signaled for her to come closer. "Step over here and I'll tell you." Wendy leaned in, and Olivia spoke in a hushed tone. "It was a gunshot wound." "What?" Wendy's eyes widened in shock, her heart racing. A gunshot? What was happening? Why did he have a gunshot wound? Her voice unintentionally grew louder, attracting the attention of those around her. Horrified, Wendy covered her mouth with both hands, casting anxious glances at Olivia. To her, guns were something she only encountered on television. "Wendy, don't look so surprised or you'll attract more attention. It's as though you've never seen the world." "Oh." Wendy was taken aback, her understanding dawning as Millie came in and started listening to the conversation too. She heard everything that had been said thus far. "After class is over, let's go outside and talk," Olivia suggested, as there were matters they needed to discuss with a little more privacy. "Sure," Wendy agreed, though she still felt a sense of unease lingering within her. "Don't overthink it, Wendy," Millie comforted, putting her arm around Wendy's shoulder. "Just because he was shot doesn't mean you are going to be. If there were any real danger, why would he even come to school? Would he be foolish enough to attend school just for some trivial test if someone were after him or something?" "You're right," Wendy nodded, temporarily reassured. After the second period ended, Olivia led Millie and Wendy out of the classroom, heading to the rooftop of the building. "In truth, Steve got hurt because of me," Olivia explained after a moment's thought. "I was scared and didn't move in time. Steve got shot trying to protect me." "What? How did this happen?" Wendy was incredulous. "Olivia, did you make an enemy?" "No." Olivia shrugged helplessly. "It's probably that my existence is causing trouble for others." "Will more people try to harm you?" Wendy's anxiety grew. A gunshot was no small matter. If not for Steve, Olivia could be dead. "I think I'll be okay. But I know there are people who are out to get me ever since I moved in with my dad," Olivia told her friend, reaching out to ruffle Wendy's hair. "But don't worry, I won't just sit back and wait for it to happen." "I'm not sure about that." Wendy still felt uneasy. "Don't worry about it." Millie waved her hand dismissively. In New York City, no one would be stupid enough to harm Olivia. After all, she's a Johnson. Who would be that foolish and throw their life away trying to take aim at someone as powerful as her? Millie really didn't understand how depraved and awful the world really was, Olivia thought. To Millie, everything was just high school tests and college applications. But underneath the pretty veneer of Manhattan society, a dark underbelly lurked, and Olivia was learning all about it now. "But promise me you won't leave the city," Wendy anxiously implored. "As long as you stay here, things should be fine, right?" "I won't leave for now," Olivia reassured. "I'm not going to die, don't worry." Seeing Wendy's mood gradually stabilizing, Olivia shifted the topic. "I've yet to ask you, what's going on with you? It's been strange since May 1st. There's something." Wendy evaded her gaze, avoiding their eyes. "Yes, go on." Both Millie and Olivia nodded in unison, prompting Wendy to speak the truth. "If I tell you, just don't scold me, all right?" Wendy hesitated, the secret she had been harboring for a while finally bubbling to the surface. "Tell us and we'll deal with it together," Millie assured her. "Here's what happened." Wendy confided to the girls about the incident when she asked Jeremy to retrieve the love letter she wrote Steve for her. But then, I don't know why Steve suddenly showed up, but he did, and he took the letter from Jeremy and thought it was a love letter that I had written to Jeremy. So now Steve thinks I like Jeremy. "Wendy, I used to think that Pamela was the unluckiest person at our school," Millie sighed. "But now I see that you're not that far off." "Yeah," Olivia chimed in agreeing. "Don't say that." Wendy covered her face with her hands. "What can I do? I feel so helpless." "So that love letter is still with Steve?" Millie asked. "Yes," Wendy replied gloomily. "He thinks I gave the love letter to Jeremy because I like Jeremy." "I see." Olivia suddenly grasped the significance of it all. Wendy's crush was pretty intense, and Wendy felt she'd totally messed up right now. This really was a huge misunderstanding. Millie felt the urge to shake some sense into Wendy because her friend was acting far too foolishly, but she refrained. Wendy lamented weakly. "I'm a coward. I can't even bring myself to talk to him. I don't want to remain a coward forever." "Well," Millie finally spoke up impatiently, "what do you plan to do?" "I don't know," Wendy responded blankly. Initially, she had put a lot of hope in that love letter, entrusting her first love and youthful feelings to it. But after hearing Steve's words, she realized her youth had died. Her first love had ended, and everything had crumbled. "I'll retrieve the letter first," Millie declared, rubbing her temples. Regardless of who has it, it's a love letter from Wendy, so I should be able to get it back if I say she wants it back. What's your plan after getting it back? Olivia asked with a sigh. Wendy, are you planning to confess your real feelings to Steve? No! Wendy shook her head vigorously as if her life depended on it. Absolutely not! I only asked for Jeremy to deliver the letter on my behalf, and then I lied and told Steve it was for Jeremy after he took it from him. But if I confess to Steve that I actually intended it for him, he'll surely think I'm fickle. Then explain the situation to him. Clarify that you intended to give him the letter. Tell him it was a misunderstanding, Millie suggested. No. Wendy rejected the idea again, her head shaking like a metronome. Even just handing him a love letter has led to this unfortunate incident. He'll probably see me as a complete idiot. Olivia and Millie exchanged glances before turning to Wendy and inquiring, Is that really so? Absolutely not. Millie crossed her heart with a large X. It's just a big misunderstanding, like I keep saying. But whatever, let's retrieve the letter first. Millie adopted a hands-on-hips pose, appearing exasperated. Okay, fine, Wendy replied, lowering her head. However, when she looked at Steve, her voice faltered, and she couldn't articulate her words clearly. Olivia, can you help me? No. Olivia immediately refused, asserting, You should handle this yourself. Don't be overly timid. If you keep on like this, you'll miss all your chances for happiness. Happiness is something you have to chase after. We'll create opportunities for you, but you need the courage to seize them. Olivia knew how being timid could kill a person, and she wasn't willing to let herself or her friends be that way in this life. That's right, Millie chimed in, sharing Olivia's sentiments. Still, with her head lowered, Wendy stared at the tip of her shoe. She understood their rationale, but fear still held her back. Olivia shook her head. Wendy's approach wasn't a solution either. Therefore, when they returned to the classroom from the rooftop, Olivia found Steve and informed him that Wendy needed to talk to him during lunch break. Steve could roughly guess that it was about the love letter. His eyes flickered with a mischievous gleam, reveling in the chaos that he loved so much. During their lunch break, when Steve suddenly, proactively sought out Wendy, she found herself utterly dumbfounded. Hey, Wendy, didn't you have something to tell me? Steve observed Wendy's surprised expression and found it amusing. What's up? Is there something on my face? I have something to say to you? Wendy was at a loss, struggling to remember what she had mentioned to Steve. Yeah, Liv told me you did. Steve gestured towards Olivia, who promptly feigned sleep, as if she had no knowledge of the situation. Wendy couldn't help but inwardly scold both Olivia and Millie for their lack of loyalty. Hesitating briefly, she finally stood up and decisively said, Yes, let's go. At this point, she couldn't afford to be excessively timid. After all she wanted was to retrieve her belongings. All right, let's go, Steve replied with his hands casually in his pockets, his lips curling into a smile. Wendy lowered her head slightly and led Steve to the rooftop, where Olivia and Millie were conversing. The two of them stood facing each other. Wendy gazed down at her toes, struggling to find a way to initiate the conversation. Wendy, you didn't invite me up here to enjoy the view and the breeze, did you? Steve teased with a twinkle in his eye. No, it's not that, Wendy replied, looking up at Steve. How's your injury? It's not a big deal. I'm not about to keel over. Steve grinned. He might not have many merits, but he certainly counted luck as one of them. I see, Wendy responded, nervously clutching her clothes hem with her hands. I want to. What is it you want to do? Steve's amusement grew as he noticed Wendy's intriguing behavior. He playfully asked, Is it possible you want to treat me to a meal? He recalled Wendy's love for food. Everyone in school knew she was a self-proclaimed foodie. No, not at all. Wendy shook her head, her face reddening. She also recalled the awkward scene during their last meal together. Then what do you want to do? Steve asked, a smile playing on his lips. I wanted to. Wendy struggled to meet Steve's smiling gaze, only to find herself stumbling over her words. She silently berated herself for failing to live up to her expectations. As embarrassment, anxiety, and impatience overwhelmed her, she looked as though she might burst into tears. "You want your love letter back, right?" Steve, seeing Wendy on the verge of tears, decided it was time to offer a helping hand. "Yes." Wendy nodded. Could you return it to me, please?" "Sure, it's not out of the question for you to want it back," Steve replied, his lips curling into a mischievous grin. "But there's one condition. You help me with something, and I'll give the letter back to you." "What is it?" Wendy looked at Steve, which to her surprise seemed rather handsome. At that moment, Wendy's heart raced and her breathing grew erratic. "It's quite simple," Steve responded. "Help me pursue Olivia, and in return, I'll give you back your love letter." "What?" Wendy was dumbfounded. Her racing heart slowed to a standstill. Her breathing turned shallow, and her mind went blank. She couldn't decide on an expression to match Steve's request. You want to pursue Olivia?" "Indeed." Steve smiled, his eyes twinkling. "You don't have to do much, just create an opportunity for me." Recently, Steve had noticed Jeremy's increasing fondness for Olivia, and he was curious to know whether he stood a chance with her. And if he were to be around her all the time anyway, it would only be a matter of time before his proximity to Olivia caused Jeremy to lose his temper, right? He found the whole thing sort of amusing. Wendy couldn't recall how she returned to the classroom, and everything after that seemed to blur together. By the time her senses returned, the school day was almost over. Millie and Olivia stood around her desk, and half the students had already left the classroom. "Hey, Wendy, why are you so lost in thought?" Olivia waved her hand in front of Wendy's eyes. "Are you all right?" "Huh?" Wendy snapped back to reality, focusing on Olivia and Millie. I'm fine." "Fine doesn't seem like it." Millie scrutinized Wendy. "So did you get your love letter back?" "No," Wendy murmured, her gaze lowered. "He wants to make a deal with me." "A deal? What kind of deal?" Olivia was puzzled. Steve had wealth and influence, so what could he possibly need to negotiate with Wendy for? "Steve sure is something. What kind of deal did he propose to you?" "He said..." Wendy's eyes welled up with tears as she recalled the situation. What was she supposed to do? "Why are your eyes red?" Millie was taken aback. "He's not trying to force you into something bad, is he?" "It can't be." Olivia comfortingly rubbed Wendy's head. Don't cry, just tell us what's going on and we'll figure it out together." Wendy bit her lip and felt a heavy ache in her heart. She gazed at Olivia with longing. It was true. Olivia was always prettier, smarter, more popular, and came from a better family background than her. It was evident to anyone with eyes that people would prefer Olivia over her. This disparity ate away at Wendy's heart, but Olivia was also her dearest friend. "What's Steve up to?" Olivia observed Wendy's distressed expression and knitted her brows. Suddenly, she recalled something and exclaimed, "Oh, you know what? Steve told me something in Philadelphia." "What was it?" Millie looked at Olivia in confusion, struggling to follow their conversation. "Why did I forget about this?" Olivia smacked her forehead and turned to the remaining classmates. "Let's go get a coffee or something outside of school. I'll treat you and tell you guys about it off campus, so no one can eavesdrop." "Ooh, okay, let's go," Millie urged eagerly, ready to hear some potential gossip. "Pack up your things. Come on, Wendy, you've been lost in thought all afternoon." "Not really." Wendy pouted apologetically and began to pack her school bag. She overheard Olivia mentioning something she had forgotten, but she also realized that whatever it was, it probably wasn't crucial. After all, she wouldn't forget anything significant. After packing their bags, the three of them exited the classroom together. As they descended the stairs, Steve, who had been in the bathroom, returned to the class. Steve noticed the empty classroom and surveyed the deserted space. He muttered to himself, "This Wendy, didn't she promise to give me an answer after school? Where is she? Did she escape from me on purpose?" Meanwhile, Olivia and the others left the school premises and went to a shop to enjoy some fresh cups of warm coffee and tea. During the stroll, Olivia shared the situation she encountered in Philadelphia with them. "Wait, really?" Millie was caught off guard, nearly spewing out her tea. Seriously? Why are things so complicated among the rich families? That's how it is, Olivia sighed, shaking her head helplessly. Wait a second, hold on. Wendy's mind struggled to process the information. This is all a bit overwhelming. Wendy, if you keep clutching your tea, you'll crush it. Olivia took the straw from Wendy's hand and inserted it into her drink. Drink it, now. What's there to be puzzled about? Let me break it down for you. Millie took another sip of tea and explained. Steve told Olivia that Jeremy is a deviant and advised her to stay away from him. And when he got injured, he asked Jeremy to take care of him. Isn't it clear? Millie shrugged. Maybe Steve likes Jeremy. So he saw you delivering a love letter to Jeremy and got jealous. That's why he took your love letter and stopped you from confessing. Then he mentioned those conditions about helping him date Olivia just to give you a hard time. That can't be. Wendy blinked her eyes in disbelief. I know this is hard to accept right now. Maybe drinking some tea will help ease the shock. Olivia consoled, patting Wendy's shoulder. Wendy took a large gulp as her cheeks puffed up. With big eyes, she looked at Olivia and Millie, making unintelligible sounds. Swallow first, then talk. Millie interrupted Wendy's muffled words. She couldn't help but laugh. After swallowing, Wendy managed, It can't be true. If he's gay, why would he ask me to help him pursue Olivia? Maybe as a diversion? Millie suggested. She turned to Wendy, saying, Wendy, are you naive? He knows very well that Liv's engaged to Chris. Why would he ask you to help me pursue her? Clearly, he's trying to make things difficult for you. Olivia found Steve's actions frustrating. He took the joke too far and was hurting Wendy in the process. No wonder you seem so absent-minded this afternoon. Millie shook her head. Good thing it's not a cheesy drama, otherwise you'd been caught up in a tangle with Olivia. I would never actually fight with Olivia over a guy, Wendy said. She lifted her chin. I will always put my friendships before a guy. I love your loyalty. Olivia smiled. She never doubted their friendship. But Steve isn't very clever. If I were him, I'd have you pretend to be my girlfriend if I were actually gay. That way, I'd not only hide my sexual orientation, but also sabotage your relationship with Jeremy. It's a win-win. Millie finished her thought, sipping her tea contentedly. She had a particular fondness for the vanilla bean honey she put in it. No. Olivia shook her head. That would be too shady. But his behavior isn't any better, right? Millie raised an eyebrow at Wendy. I'm sorry you're caught in the crosshairs, Wendy. Yeah. Olivia nodded in agreement. This was Wendy's first true experience with love. It was a shame that it ended up being so unpleasant. Suddenly, a male voice rang from behind them. Wendy, why did you leave after school? Didn't I ask you to wait for me? Wendy abruptly turned her head, remembering what Steve had told her earlier. Wendy, I'll give you time to think about my proposition. How about this? Why don't you wait for me after school, and then you can give me an answer? Is that okay? Back on the rooftop, fear had rendered her mind blank, preventing her from paying attention to Steve's words. But now, face to face with him, the memory came rushing back. Hello, what's going through your mind? Steve walked up to Wendy and waved his hand in front of her. Why are you spacing out? Steve, you're quite impressive. Millie scrutinized Steve from head to toe. I've always had my moments. Steve grinned, then turned his gaze to Olivia. Would you mind if I borrow Wendy for a while? Wendy, it's up to you. Olivia addressed Wendy. Since her love letter was still in Steve's possession, Olivia was reasonably certain about his character. He had saved her before, yet when it came to this relationship, things were far from clear-cut. Sure, Wendy nodded. I'll go talk to him. Regardless of the circumstances, she had to retrieve her love letter. It had been an innocent and inexperienced mistake, and one she needed to rectify as soon as possible. Go ahead. Millie patted Wendy's shoulder, sensing that her friend was taking her first bold step on the path of life, talking to her crush on her own. Wendy, it seemed, was further behind than her other friends in terms of maturity, so this step was necessary for her. With a solemn nod, Wendy resolved to confront Steve about his unethical behavior. She was determined to retrieve her love letter, and her fear was rapidly diminishing. Steve smiled and guided Wendy down a different route. As they turned onto a street, they stumbled upon an automated vending machine nestled in a narrow alley. "I'm thirsty," Steve remarked, heading straight to the vending machine. However, as he tried to purchase a drink, he noticed a piece of paper taped to it. It read, "Coins only." Despite searching his pockets, Steve couldn't find any change. He turned to Wendy. "Do you have any coins?" "Change?" Wendy unslung her school bag, rifling through its contents. No, she only had $10, and it was all bills. "Shoot," Steve frowned. Listen." Wendy took a deep breath to muster her courage. "Steve, I seriously—" Before Wendy could finish her sentence, a loud noise startled her. Her gaze darted toward the source of the sound, and she spotted 4 well-dressed young men approaching. The leader among them kicked the nearby trash bin, causing Wendy to tremble with fear. These guys must be troublemakers, right? Wendy thought. They looked so intimidating. "Listen, kid, I'm Otis." The leader addressed Steve with a condescending tone. "My friends and I are down some money for the subway, and a little bit of cash could help us out a lot, if you'd be so kind as to lend us some." I'm sorry, I can't," Steve replied, still absorbed by the vending machine. His thirst was real and growing more intense by the moment. "Who do you think you're fooling? If you have cash, you can take your girl out. If you're broke, then it's ours." One of the young men next to Otis sneered at Wendy. "Geez, you're really plain looking." Wendy shrank, aware of her lack of distinctiveness. She didn't need it pointed out. Adjusting her glasses on the bridge of her nose, she felt a pang of discomfort. The closest thug knocked the half-full tea from Wendy's hand onto the ground. "You with your plain looks, you even dare look at me?" The others burst into raucous laughter. Wendy gripped her school bag tightly, bowing her head. So what if she was ordinary? Though angered, she couldn't challenge these delinquents. "Enough already, I'm through laughing," Otis declared, his mirth subsiding. He believed Steve was a coward. "Kid, hand over the money, I'm talking to you, can't you hear me?" Otis gave Steve's shoulder a shove. Steve hissed, pain flaring from his shoulder. Drawing a deep breath, he met Otis's gaze with a fiery one. This man was asking for trouble. "Damn it, what kind of look is that? You're asking for a beating. What's wrong with me pushing you?" Otis's fist clenched in anger, aiming for Steve's face. Swiftly, Steve intercepted the blow with his palm, his leg then striking out toward Otis's abdomen. The force behind the kick was considerable, propelling Otis backward until his body collided with the wall. A loud thud echoed. "Ah!" Otis crumbled to the ground, clutching his head in agony.
Oh.
Blood stained his palm where he touched it, igniting his panic. "You! How dare you hit me? Get him! Teach this jerk a lesson!" "Huh," Steve uttered disdainfully, subsequently flooring the other assailants who'd lunged at him. Wendy gawked in astonishment. How could Steve be so skilled? "Empty your wallets, did you hear me?" Steve's voice dripped with coldness. Having spent their days as muggers, these delinquents found themselves on the other side of the equation this time. Though resentful, they submitted to Steve's demands, aware they couldn't beat him. Steve produced all the money from his wallet, discarding the now empty wallet on the ground. He strode over to the vending machine, slotting the money into the coin slot and procuring a bottle of drink. He twisted the cap, sipped, and let out a satisfied, "That hits the spot." Wendy observed this scene, perplexed about how to react. "What would you like to drink?" Steve turned to Wendy, a few coins still in his possession. It's all right, I'm not thirsty." Wendy hastily waved her hand. She wouldn't dare use the money to buy a drink. Who knew if this ruffian would retaliate? She lacked Steve's fighting prowess. Steve chuckled and inserted a few coins. "Coke or Sprite?" Wendy mumbled. "Coke, I suppose." "All right." Steve pushed a button. A clank followed, and a Coke bottle dropped. Steve retrieved it, twisted off the cap, and handed it to Wendy. "Here." "Thank you so much." Wendy regarded Steve with mixed emotions. She had to admit, his chivalrous behavior had its appeal. "Let's go." Steve led the way forward. "Sure," Wendy responded, glancing back at the few hooligans still sprawled in the alley before hastening to catch up. Wendy's hard-earned confidence and courage dissipated as she watched Steve single-handedly handle those troublemakers. Once they arrived at a nearby park, Steve paused, regarding Wendy. "Let's talk here." Coming to a halt as well, Wendy noticed the proximity between them and instinctively took a step backward. Steve chuckled. "Afraid of me?" "No," she replied. Even if she was afraid, she wouldn't admit it openly. Chuckling again, Steve took a step toward her. Wendy reflexively stepped back, taunting him. "Aren't you the one to fear?" He continued unfazed. "Have you thought over my proposal from earlier?" "What?" Wendy hesitated, thrown off by his question. "About helping me pursue Olivia," Steve explained, crossing his arms. "What's your stance on it?" "I'm not interested," Wendy replied, her apprehension showing. When she saw he didn't appear angered, she added, "Liv and Chris are engaged. It's not appropriate." Although she initially planned to sternly admonish him, Wendy's boldness had waned. "They're engaged, not married," Steve retorted, smirking. "Who knows what the future holds? What if Olivia realizes I'm a better match than Chris?" Wendy muttered, unconvinced. "Protective of Chris, aren't you?" Steve scanned her from head to toe. "Don't tell me you have a crush on Chris." "No, I don't," she immediately refuted. "Oh, how could I forget you're into Jeremy?" Steve grinned. "Wendy, still yearning for your love letter?" Wendy began, dragging her response. She truly wanted it back, even if she regretted writing it. "Since you're eager, just promise me obediently," Steve goaded, noticing her trepidation. "If you don't, I might just post your love letter on the school bulletin board for everyone to enjoy. How does that sound?" "Absolutely not," Wendy scolded him. "Steve, don't cross the line." It was perhaps the boldest statement she'd ever made in his presence. "Oops, my bad," Steve chuckled, taking in Wendy's unusual assertiveness. "Even a kitten knows how to unsheath its claws." "You!" Wendy flushed. What a peculiar analogy. "In any case, the choice is yours. Help me create an opportunity to get closer to Olivia, and I'll give you your love letter back." Steve gestured casually. "I only need 10 times alone with her, little opportunities to talk to her one-on-one. Then we'll call it even." 10? Wendy was taken aback. She could manage 1 or 2 opportunities for him to get close to Olivia, but 10 times? That would be challenging. "No," she thought, recalling Olivia's advice and feeling displeased. Steve was here to make her suffer. How petty could he be? Her favorability for him plummeted by more than half. She pouted unhappily. Steve was indeed too much. Seeing her expression, Steve's spirits lifted. He realized there was someone who could wear their feelings openly on their face. Without a doubt, Wendy's expression was a clear condemnation of him as a bad person. Observing her shoulders dropping and her sigh of resignation, Steve knew she'd acquiesce. "All right," Wendy looked up at Steve. "Just 10 times after that you return my note." "Deal." Steve extended his right hand, palm open. Wendy blinked and shook his hand. "Let's go. I'll walk you home," Steve said, sliding his hands back into his pockets. "No need. I can manage on my own," Wendy retorted, her frustration still simmering. Steve's threat had left a bitter taste in her mouth. She huffed, turned her head in disdain, and strode away. Steve chuckled, unfazed, and followed her. As dusk settled, he had no reason to let a girl walk home alone, especially for safety's sake. Throughout the journey, Wendy seethed in anger. She reached a street corner and almost stumbled into a group of skateboarding kids. Steve acted quickly, pulling her back. "Be careful." Steadying herself, Wendy mumbled softly, "Thank you," before resuming her solitary walk. This time her steps were slower, and her eyes occasionally flicked toward Steve. Passing by an elderly man playing the violin on the street, Steve paused. He took out all the money he'd taken from the delinquents and deposited it in the man's collection box. With a gentle bow, he paid his respects, and the old man acknowledged him with a nod. This scene left Wendy momentarily taken aback. She admitted that she held a fondness for Steve. This incident, though, had been disillusioning, shattering her initial perception of him. She couldn't believe Steve had threatened to show her a love letter to the whole school if she didn't help him. She had never imagined Steve could stoop so low. Yet, despite this negative experience, Wendy couldn't help but be occasionally entranced by his actions, like when he unscrewed the cap of the Coke bottle before handing it to her, or moments like these where she found herself getting drawn in. But each time she considered the matter of Steve being gay, Wendy's spirits dropped. In his world, perhaps he perceived romantic attraction between different genders as fundamentally distinct, a sentiment she could never share. Being together seemed improbable if they couldn't bridge that gap. Silent for the remainder of the journey, Wendy walked back into her neighborhood, lost in thought. Standing at the building's entrance, she gave a wave to Steve, trailing behind her. "This is my home. I'll see you at school." "Take care," Steve replied, nodding and waving. Seeing Wendy off, he left the neighborhood himself. A few streets away, he spotted a woman who had dropped her grocery bag of produce, with a few apples scattered on the ground. Kneeling down, he began gathering the apples. "Ma'am, there are a few more over here." "Thank you so much." The woman expressed her gratitude, offering him the largest red apple. "Here, take this." With a smile, Steve accepted the apple and continued on his way. "What a thoughtful young man," the woman complimented him, overhearing a conversation behind her. "Desiree!" someone called out behind her. "Victoria, you're back early today." "I know, I got off work early," Victoria said. "Shall we head inside?" On Saturday, Olivia arranged a gathering for her video game project at a coffee shop in the city center. Once everyone had settled down, Millie's brow furrowed slightly. "Steve, what brings you here?" She hadn't expected Steve to show up. After Wendy's incident, Millie wasn't particularly fond of him. "Why can't I be here?" Steve grinned. "If there's something interesting going on, I'd like to be included." "Today's main agenda is discussing the game," Olivia interjected, not bothered by Steve's presence. After all, even if he couldn't contribute significantly, he had financial resources to offer. "Got it," he nodded. The game was a significant project for everyone involved, apparently. "Let's start by dividing our roles," Olivia suggested, opening her notebook. "I've already outlined some preliminary responsibilities. Take a look." She guided them through the roles. "Currently, my family has invested $50,000, and Francis has contributed the same. Hence, Francis and I will be overseeing the team. Additionally, Francis will handle game planning. The story and design are Wendy's creations, so she'll be our game screenwriter and designer." "Wow." Wendy's eyes sparkled upon hearing her assigned role. It felt like quite a prestigious position. She hadn't anticipated being able to contribute in this manner. "Zach will handle research and development of the game program," Olivia continued, addressing Zach. "All right." Zach nodded, content to leverage his skills. "Millie will manage any calculations that need to be done," Olivia stated, directing her attention to Millie. "I'll be handling public relations in collaboration with Millie." "No issues," Millie agreed, knowing this was within her skill set. "Jeremy?" Olivia hesitated momentarily, pondering Jeremy's potential contributions. She admitted she didn't know him that well. As far as she could tell, Jeremy excelled in precision shooting, but that didn't necessarily translate into usefulness for the game company. "I also have programming skills," Jeremy nodded. Dealing with computer-related matters wasn't a challenge for him. "That's great. You and Zach can take charge of the core technology," Olivia affirmed. "What about me?" Steve looked at Olivia. "What role do I play?" "I'm not entirely sure of your capabilities." Olivia shrugged. Steve smirked. "Well, I can also put in $50,000 if that helps." "All right," Olivia agreed. It was a good time to bring in more funds, so she didn't decline his offer. As for your role, you'll be responsible for testing. Sounds simple enough, Steve nodded. A simultaneous scoff echoed from Francis and Zach. Even Jeremy couldn't help but twitch his mouth a few times. What's up? Steve wasn't particularly invested in the game, but he had grasped the essence of the situation after witnessing the reactions of these three individuals. Game testing wasn't as straightforward as he had assumed. No worries. Olivia suppressed a smile and took a sip of her coffee. She steered the conversation. I'm hungry. Does anyone want anything to eat? Vanilla latte is pretty good, Millie said, and the muffins. Despite Millie not being well-versed in game development, she was impressed that Olivia had cunningly drawn Steve into the conversation and gotten him to invest in the company. Wendy, what kind of dessert would you like? Olivia inquired. I heard their blueberry ice cream waffles are delicious too. Would you like to give them a try? Sure, Wendy agreed, intrigued by the prospect of trying something new. Waiter? Millie beckoned the waiter over and ordered, add a blueberry ice cream waffle and a whipped cream topping to our order, please. Of course, is there anything else? The waiter inquired politely. 2 servings of cinnamon streusel, please. Olivia looked over the menu and glanced at the number of people, and a matcha-flavored 8-inch cake. With this many of us, we should be able to finish it. Certainly, the waiter affirmed before heading off to prepare the order. Just then, the coffee shop's glass door swung open. Chris walked in and approached Olivia's table. Observing this, Millie smoothly shifted her seat, creating an open spot. Apologies for being late. Chris settled down next to Olivia. Then he quickly called the waiter over and ordered a sandwich and a piece of angel food cake. No problem at all. Olivia gave him a quick glance. Seriously, was he here solely for the food? How was that his first priority upon sitting down? What's this notebook? Chris picked up the notebook from the table and flipped through it. It's mine. Olivia retrieved the notebook from Chris and stowed it in her backpack. I'm just jotting some things down. You're going to be running a game studio. You should start getting accustomed to using a computer, Chris suggested. He had visited Olivia's room before and noticed her laptop was an older model and seemed out of place in her bedroom. Computers are undoubtedly vital these days, Millie chimed in. She owned a laptop, which was incredibly convenient for her. Especially in game development, Chris added. He and the other 3 families had selected and assembled each component of his laptop. Right, Olivia acknowledged, understanding that computers were indispensable. Her future life would likely revolve around them. While she hadn't paid much attention to this aspect previously, Chris's reminder encouraged her to consider it more seriously. Is Chris involved in game development as well? Steve questioned. To some extent, Chris confirmed. What role are you responsible for? Steve probed further. Not determined yet, Chris replied. How did the game testing go? Steve asked Chris, doubtful that Chris knew enough to even answer. Despite not comprehending the specifics of the game test, he could gauge from their reactions that it hadn't gone well. That's probably why they were trying to ensnare him in the project. I'm not a fan, Chris swiftly declined. Game testing is tedious and bothersome. You have to play the same level dozens or hundreds of times just to detect the tiniest bug. Even if you play until you're nauseous, there's no guarantee of finding it. It's a colossal nuisance. Listening to Chris's explanation, Steve's expression shifted. What on earth? He had definitely been taken for a ride. A pained look crossed his face as he glanced at Olivia. He had contributed $50,000 as well. Did he have to be tricked like this? Just then, the waiter brought the cake they ordered earlier. Here's the 8-inch cake you requested. Everyone, let's dig in. Olivia swiftly diverted attention to the cake, sidestepping Steve's gaze. Wendy surprisingly burst into laughter, seeing Steve's defeated look. She was no longer as tense around him as before, and now felt much more at ease. I really thought this company was further along when I pledged that investment money. Steve sighed as he stretched his back, walking alongside Jeremy. But at least those desserts are genuinely delicious. Jeremy marched forward, deep in his thoughts, not responding. "Jeremy, what do you think?" Steve subtly glanced at Jeremy. "What are your thoughts about Wendy?" Though asking such a question might make most people uncomfortable, he still wanted to gauge Jeremy's interest in Wendy. After all, he felt bad for interrupting Wendy's confession to Jeremy about liking her. "She's all right," Jeremy replied. He felt that the people he had met in New York City were decent individuals. They were all fairly good people. Despite Wendy being a bit naive, her purity and kindness were commendable traits. "Just that?" Steve sounded a bit disappointed. "She confessed her feelings to you after all, is that all you have to say?" Pausing his steps upon hearing Steve's remark, Jeremy looked at him and asked, "What are your thoughts about Wendy?" "What do I think? Does it really matter?" Steve was taken aback. Seeing Jeremy's serious expression, he squinted and contemplated for a moment. "Wendy, she appears to have a full stomach and a demeanor that invites bullying. Whenever he saw Wendy, he had the impression that she was an easy target for teasing, even though her appearance was rather unremarkable. Despite her somewhat foolish and adorable personality, he always sensed an air of vulnerability." "I see," Jeremy responded, resuming his stride. It seemed that Wendy's journey of love wouldn't be a smooth one. "Hey, that's it?" Steve saw Jeremy walking away again and quickly caught up. Jeremy's behavior was truly something. The two young men continued their peaceful interaction, with one walking leisurely and the other engaging in conversation. Their camaraderie appeared harmonious. Little did they know that this innocent companionship would take on a different interpretation in the eyes of three individuals sitting in a private car across the street. "Maybe they like each other." Millie squinted her eyes, observing the two figures growing distant through the car window. "Right," Olivia nodded. "They could be cute together. They're equally good-looking and seem to have similar interests." Even though Jeremy didn't seem overly concerned with his appearance, he possessed a certain charm. Oh, Wendy felt sad for herself in her heart, but she also understood. She sighed. "I hope they'll be happy." There was little point in persistently dwelling on the matter. She chose to silently wish them well. The driver, Morris Brad, followed their gaze for a moment before withdrawing his attention. The world of young people was intricate and beyond his comprehension. First, Morris dropped off Wendy at her home, and then took Millie to the intersection where she'd switched to another car. Finally, he returned Olivia to the Johnson family mansion. It was slightly after 4 in the afternoon when they arrived back. "Olivia, you're back already?" Monica was seated in the living room reading a book. Upon spotting Olivia's return, she stood up, closing the book in her hands. "Usually you hang out with your friends longer after school." "Yeah," Olivia replied briefly, then headed straight for her room upstairs. Monica didn't utter any more words. Glaring at Olivia's retreating figure, she casually tossed the book onto the sofa and made her way into the kitchen. In about a month, Bruno and Chef Mario Vincenzo, one of Bruno's mentors in the culinary world, would arrive to select their next apprentices. This time, she couldn't afford to fail. Success was her only option. After arranging all the ingredients, Monica stared at the knife on the cutting board. Clenching her teeth, she muttered, "Olivia, I must surpass you and trample you mercilessly." Gripping the kitchen knife, she brought it down with force onto the ingredients. The cut was precise and clean. She didn't need to measure to know that it matched Bruno's requirements perfectly. For so long, she had been diligently practicing these monotonous tasks day after day. Each night, even in her dreams, she would be measuring weights. The relentless repetition felt like a form of agonizing torture. But she couldn't give up. She persevered all along. Her goal was to showcase her culinary prowess before the master chefs, making herself stand out at a glance. She yearned to become either Bruno or Chef Mario Vincenzo's apprentice. She aimed to surpass Olivia and prove to everyone that she, Monica, was the rightful heiress of the Johnson family. Her determination intensified. Monica continued her rigorous practice. Rachel descended the back staircase from the second floor and observed Monica diligently working in the kitchen. Her heart swelled with a mixture of heartache and pride. Monica had matured. She understood that true strength wasn't something to be flaunted, but something that brought inner contentment. Witnessing her daughter's tireless dedication to self-improvement was a joyous revelation. In her room, Olivia browsed through computer models on the internet while jotting notes in a small notebook. Considering the possibility of frequent outings, she decided to prepare a laptop. Although desktop computers boasted more functionalities and completeness, they weren't conducive to portability. After an indeterminate span of time, a maid knocked on her door, informing her that dinner was ready downstairs. Feeling that she hadn't fully digested the afternoon's dessert, Olivia declined the offer, stating she wasn't hungry. Having checked the information she needed, Olivia then perused real-time news. At that time, her location setting was still in Philadelphia, which is why she continued to receive news pertaining to that area. The identity of the individual tragically killed near her hotel had been identified. Olivia clicked on the article to read more. The report revealed that the victim hailed from Chicago. Police speculated that it was a vendetta-related crime. A photograph of the deceased, despite being blurred out over the eyes, was recognizable to Olivia in an instant. "This is the man who broke into my hotel suite that day," she thought, eyes widening. Her heart seemed to skip a beat. How had this person met his end? Recollections of the scene she had witnessed in Greg Kong's room that night surfaced in Olivia's mind. Could Greg have been the one to kill him? Such a ruthless method seemed inconceivable when associated with the gentle and well-mannered Greg Kong. All 10 fingers were broken, and the victim had been brutally mutilated. It was truly horrifying. No, Olivia thought, wincing. Olivia paused, her thoughts racing. Greg wouldn't be that foolish. She had seen him as a somewhat even-tempered man previously. Under such circumstances, it was implausible for him to commit such a murder. Moreover, Greg was connected to Philadelphia, and considering the Kong's family influence in that city, they would surely suppress any reporting on a murder case involving him. The reporters there wouldn't dare publish such news if he were involved. So the Kong family couldn't be responsible, Olivia reasoned. Realizing this, Olivia's thoughts turned to another person. Pete Pell of the Pell family in Chicago. It seemed that Pete was the prime suspect. Contemplating him, Olivia felt a shiver run down her spine. She'd nearly lost her life to him on the outskirts of Philadelphia, in the backwoods on her way out of town. Seeing news of him harming one of his own subordinates now, Olivia's brows knitted together. Pete Pell is a truly merciless individual, she thought. In the future, they would inevitably cross paths and meet face to face again. Then we'll settle our old debts once and for all, she smiled. And this time, I'll be ready for him. Olivia looked down at her notebook. She had a new name to add to her revenge list, and this one was going straight to the top of the list. Olivia didn't go downstairs for dinner because she was busy fantasizing about Pete Pell's demise, but by 9 o'clock her stomach was growling. Oh man, I'm starving. Olivia rubbed her stomach and made her way out of her room to the kitchen on the first floor. The lights were off, and 2 maids were conducting a final check in the pantry. After completing their task, they would head to their own rooms to rest after their shift. Miss, one of the 2 maids addressed Olivia. Are you hungry? We noticed you didn't come down for dinner. Yes, Olivia nodded. What ingredients do we have in the kitchen? In the fridge, there are mushrooms, vegetables, chicken, beef, eggs, and seafood. One of the maids replied. What would you like to eat? The other maid inquired. No need to trouble yourselves. You can go off duty. I'll prepare something for myself, Olivia said, walking over to the sink to wash her hands. Are you sure? The maids hesitated. They were meant to handle such tasks. It didn't seem appropriate to have her cook her own food. We insist. In that case, Olivia suggested upon seeing their uncertainty, I'd like some chicken and potatoes with broccolini, if possible, please. You can just heat up the leftovers we had from last night. No need to make it all fresh again. Of course, miss. The two maids agreed and began working on her meal. Once they had completed their task, the maids informed Olivia, "Miss, we'll take our leave now, unless there's anything else you need." "No, I'm good. Go ahead and enjoy your evenings." Olivia smiled at them. "Have a good night and good luck with your studies." She recalled that these two maids were part-time college students. Having joined recently, they still had to attend online night classes. "Thank you." They nodded before departing from the kitchen together. She could tell from reading their thoughts that they appreciated her remembering details as they left. Unlike Monica, Olivia actually paid attention to the people who worked in her family's mansion. As soon as the maids left, Olivia quickly, ravenously turned her attention to her food. Given her current hunger, she was able to devour 2 generous helpings of leftovers and felt like she could even eat a third if one were available. At that moment, the living room door swung open and Michael entered the house. He was just now returning from work because a crucial meeting had kept him occupied back at his office in the city until about 40 minutes ago. "Dad?" Olivia, who had just set the table, perked up at the sound of her father plopping his briefcase on the living room couch. Emerging from the kitchen, she saw her father. "Hey, you're back from work," she exclaimed. "Yes, it was a busy day," Michael replied as he approached. "You haven't eaten yet, right?" Olivia recalled his tendency to forget meals when engrossed in work. I guess not," Michael admitted with a slightly awkward smile. "I got caught up and forgot." Olivia pouted, placing her hands on her hips. "Don't you know you're not going to be healthy if you do that? Doesn't your stomach let you know when you're hungry? How could you forget to eat?" In a daze, Michael remembered a similar admonition from his past, and how Victoria would chide him about his eating habits, too. "Dad, go wash your hands first," Olivia instructed with a helpless shake of her head. "I just happened to heat something up." "Is it the dish you cooked?" Michael came to his senses and smiled. He had yet to taste a meal prepared by Olivia. "I'm looking forward to it." "Oh no, I didn't cook it. The maids did. But even if I did, my cooking isn't on par with yours, Dad," Olivia responded with a smile. Michael nodded, jesting. "All right, well, I'll eat just about anything, because you're right. I am starving now that I have the time to think about it." "Dad, I told you." Olivia playfully rolled her eyes at him, her hair cascading down her back. She then turned and retreated back to the kitchen. Michael chuckled, placing his coat on the sofa alongside his briefcase before washing his hands. Then he headed to the dining table and took a seat. Olivia returned to the kitchen, took out more leftovers from the fridge, and heated up her dad a large portion. And because she was still hungry, she heated herself a little more too. Then she wore heat-resistant gloves, lifted the hot plates, and carried them both out. Setting her dad's plate on the table before him, she cautioned Michael, "It's hot, be careful." With that, she presented him with his dish. Instantly, the aroma filled the air. The rich, savory scent mingled with the delicate sweetness. Michael's eyes lit up. "Well, this certainly looks delicious," he smiled. "Yes, it's my favorite. I know it's simple, but I love it. At my mom's house, when I stay there, my godmother makes it for us." Olivia responded, "My mom loves eating this." "Of course," Michael nodded with enthusiasm. "Your mom always enjoyed healthy, simple dishes." "That's true." Olivia sampled another bite of chicken and potatoes, detecting a subtle savoriness in the gravy that came with it. Michael also tasted it and then asked Olivia, "Have you wanted to learn to cook at all?" "My godmother taught me some things," Olivia answered, taking a bite of broccolini. "She says I have a natural talent for it. Since I'm a promising student in culinary skills, she's given me a lot of guidance." "Is that so?" Michael mused. "Dad," Olivia took the rest of her chicken thigh and put it on Michael's plate. "Remember to eat during work. Given your stomach condition, neglecting meals could take a toll on your health." "Yes," Michael agreed. "I'll make an effort next time." Taking a bite of the chicken, he observed its tight yet smooth texture, first encountering the fried exterior and then experiencing the soft, tender meat. He found the combination rather satisfying. "Good. That's what I'd like to hear." Olivia blinked playfully. Oh, and Dad, could you buy me a laptop? A laptop? Michael pondered. What kind of laptop are you interested in? Just a laptop, Olivia clarified, adding, I don't want a desktop computer, but I need a new one because my old one is quite old and doesn't have the memory or data storage I think I'll need for school or my gaming company. In that case, yes, of course, I'd be happy to get you something. Michael nodded in agreement. While he had provided his other daughter Monica with a computer ever since her elementary school years, Olivia hadn't received one from him, even when she reached high school or when she came to live with him. I'll ask my assistant Ansel to help you choose one tomorrow. Okay, Olivia responded with a smile and a nod. She had confidence in Ansel Parr's capabilities. After discussing the topic of the computer, Olivia shifted her gaze to Michael and playfully rolled her eyes. Dad, I came across a really eerie novel today. What kind of novel? Michael inquired. It's about a young girl and her family's company has a spy in it. The spy embezzles the main character's family assets. Subsequently, the protagonist's father loses everything and is betrayed by a trusted person, which leads him to take his own life with a gunshot. Olivia recounted while watching Michael's reaction. Then, the main character is still young and helpless. Her father dies again, leaving her and her mother defenseless. Stricken by poverty and unable to accept the suicide of her father, her mother hangs herself when the main character isn't home. Michael's hand trembled, causing the piece of chicken he was about to pick up to slip back onto his plate. When he moved his arm, he hit his coffee cup and some coffee spilled out, scalding his hand. The searing pain brought him back to the present. He awkwardly smiled and remarked, That's just a work of fiction. Authors often write novels to captivate readers. Indeed, Olivia concurred with a smile. I also think it's highly improbable. There are even novels about reincarnation, claiming that the main character returns to their youth after death, aiming to alter a tragic future. Is that so? Modern authors certainly have a flair for imaginative storytelling. Michael chuckled. The dead are gone for good. How could they possibly be reborn? Maybe we shouldn't expose the younger generation to such fantasies. Maybe, Olivia agreed, observing Michael's resistance to her earlier examples. She decided to ease up on her persuasion tactics. Wendy enjoys reading those types of stories and has even recommended some to me. It's crucial to differentiate between fiction and reality, Michael emphasized. Right now, your focus should be on your studies. For novels, you can indulge in them during your leisure time. Understood, Olivia acknowledged. Art is said to be a reflection of life, though, and sometimes it even transcends reality. Some novels are pure fabrication, while others may not be entirely implausible. Seeing that her father was slightly uncomfortable, Olivia took another bite of her food and continued. Anyway, I'm really enjoying the progress of my gaming studio. It may even evolve into a successful company in the future. Even if I had a spy in my company, I might be able to handle it because it would be that lucrative. Well, you don't have to worry about spies in your video game company because you have your family supporting you. Michael frowned. Exactly, I was just joking. Olivia replied earnestly, meeting Michael's gaze. No matter what, I have family members by my side. She felt a surge of determination to change the tragic outcome of Michael's suicide in her past life. With family support, there's no obstacle we can't overcome. It's good that you know. Michael heard Olivia's words and felt relieved. Children at this age could easily think too much, especially about dark things, and he didn't want his daughter dwelling on subject matters like suicide or betrayals, or even having to work so hard on businesses while she was just a teen. Recently, he had also seen much news of high school students committing suicide. As a father, he was also quite worried. Olivia could see that he was worried, so she wanted to switch the subject so he would focus on something lighter. Dad, give your broccoli and potatoes a try. Olivia pushed the side dish towards him. How does it all taste? Michael took a bite and nodded with approval. It's quite delicious. The flavors were fresh, crisp, and balanced in saltiness. Good, I'm glad you're eating. Olivia chuckled, supporting her chin with her hand. She asked, Dad, you're working so hard these days. Are you happy? I'm managing. Michael considered for a moment. It's not just about happiness. People need to find purpose in their lives. Is the Johnson family's success your purpose? Olivia asked, probing gently. She aimed to gradually shift Michael's perspective during the conversation. Well, yes, Michael answered, though he wasn't entirely sure, but when he saw the sincere look in his daughter's eyes, he didn't want to deceive her. Dad, have you ever thought about changing your job? Olivia inquired further. Switching to a job you truly enjoy? I don't really have personal preferences, Michael replied with a slightly awkward smile. His career path had been dictated by his father, Jack. With no culinary talents, he was directed towards management, a rather unexpected turn of events. He had also dabbled in forming a band during his university years, which was probably the only time he had truly gone wild. Then, Dad, is everything planned by Grandpa? Olivia looked at Michael with a tinge of sorrow. A person's career, life, and marriage were all orchestrated by others. Someone else custom-designed his entire life journey, from start to finish. Even his death, perhaps, was prearranged by others in Liv's past life. Michael had never truly lived for himself. That's right, Michael sighed, but it's been all right. He reflected on the relatively content life he had shared with Victoria during their years together. Dad, you're not young anymore. Have you never considered living for yourself? Olivia stood up, placing her hands on the table. Dad, if you don't chase your passions, you'll just grow old. Michael was amused by his daughter's words. He reached out and gently tapped her forehead. I'm already this old, and you're calling me an old man? Don't tease me. Covering her forehead with both hands, Olivia's expression was complex. Michael had lived under decades of mental constraint. He had become somewhat desensitized to the idea of personal aspirations. Attempting to change someone's mindset wasn't an easy task. Olivia knew this, but she couldn't afford to give up, and she didn't want to give up. She realized that based on Michael's current mindset, even if the day came when Grandpa Jack and Bruno drained the company and the New York side of the Johnson family went bankrupt, Michael might still choose the path of suicide. Once they finished the meal she prepared, Michael returned to his study, spreading documents across the table. He muttered, If I don't pursue my passions, I'll just grow old. Then he chuckled and shook his head. What a child. The words of a child were truly intriguing, he thought. Perhaps he had been just like this when he was young. He couldn't quite remember. Letting out a sigh, Michael immersed himself in his work. Every now and then he would recall Olivia's words from the dinner table. A sense of trepidation would rise within him. If he honestly had nothing, what would become of his wife and daughters? Michael's gaze was fixated on a fresh set of accounting documents that had just arrived. He furrowed his brows. One copy showed a bill for an upcoming project. $50 million. He shook his head, dispelling the thought. He wouldn't do this, Michael thought. The bill was probably due to the recent establishment of the London branch, which likely required immediate funds. Regardless of everything, Michael was still Jack Johnson's oldest son. He couldn't believe his father would treat him that way. He just couldn't. Focus. Focus. Michael took a deep breath as if he were reminding himself. With one determined breath, he swept away the thought. Opening another document, he resumed his work.